Disclaimer. I do not claim ownership of this story. All rights belong to the original creators. Title: One Piece, Adopting Doflamingo. Chapter 21 Arrival. Chapter 21 Arrival. Standing in front of them was a Navy man wearing a cloak of justice and brown sunglasses. Although he was still young, he still looked wretched. At this time, the Navy was still scratching his head helplessly. "Oh, I almost missed it, it's so dangerous." Facing this person who appeared suddenly, Doflamingo immediately fell into alertness. The flash and speed just now belonged to a devil fruit-capable user. Doflamingo kept his face as calm as possible. Even though the opponent was a Navy, it still couldn't make Doflamingo relax his vigilance. "Great, it's the Navy, saved." Some crew members found the naval warships that came to support and the Navy already on board. The crew who thought they would just watch the two children get caught wiped a cold sweat. "It's great, thanks to you, these two children were saved from disaster." But the person who rushed over just turned his head to look at Doflamingo and Rosindi, narrowing his eyes. "These two little brothers, even if I don't come, they will be injured." Listening to the speech of the Navy in front of him, Doflamingo also felt deeply malicious. The Navy on the opposite side is not easy. Looking at Doflamingo, who was on guard against him, the Navy didn't say anything, and dealt with the few pirates who were still on board. He raised his finger and pointed at the pirates, and a beam of light shot out from his hand, piercing the hearts of the pirates. Solving the pirates so easily naturally aroused the admiration and praise of the people present. The pirate ship not far away was instantly contained by the red magma and sank to the bottom of the sea in an instant. Is it the ability of devil fruit again? Doflamingo has been lost in thought, and has two devil fruit abilities. The naval warship gradually approached. Standing at the bow was a man with a fierce face. At this time, his fist was still covered with magma. It was obvious that he was the one who made the shipwreck just now. The Navy seemed a little impatient and said to the Navy cleaning up the pirates on the ship, "Porcellino, why does it take so long to deal with so many pirates?" The wretched-looking man didn't make any apologies. Instead he teased back calmly, "Sakaski, I did this to protect the safety of the people." The stinky man known as Sakaski didn't pay attention to Porcellino's yin and yang aura, but turned his attention to the people around him. After staying on Doflamingo for a while, he just snorted coldly. With a sound, returned to the interior of the warship. Although Porcellino was older than him, they belonged to the same period, and now their military ranks are equal. There is no distinction between upper and lower, and both of them are natural-type fruit-capable people, and they were assigned by the Navy headquarters. Give high hopes. Porcellino got bored, and returned to the warship, and a few more Navy soldiers got off the warship to clean up the pirate corpses. Soon, the Navy's warships gradually drifted away amidst people's thanks. Not long ago, Doflamingo also met Sakaski's gaze. The other's eyes were full of determination. That kind of coercion not only did not make Doflamingo feel scared, but a kind of surging. Seeing the strength of these two devil fruit users, Doflamingo even felt the blood in his heart flowing rapidly, and the beating of his heart showed his excitement, because he was very sure that his future would also become like that. A person who is as strong as two people can even be stronger than them. Fufurfur, it's really exciting. "Rossi, let's go back and rest first. It will take a long time to arrive." Rosindi nodded, but couldn't help looking at the warship in the distance. On a warship. "Hey, Sakaski, did you seem to care about those two children just now?" "I just thought that one of the kids made me feel weird." "Indeed, I didn't panic at all under the pirate's knife." "Oh, is that so?" "It seems that there is something wrong." "I'm afraid that the child will go astray when he grows up." "Ha, that's really far-fetched." "If that's the case, I wouldn't mind executing him on the spot in advance even if he's just a child." Sokolsky's low-pitched answer won't make people think it's a joke. What Sokolsky didn't know, fortunately, he sailed a certain distance on the ship before he said that, but if this sentence was heard by no. For the sake of thinking, kill Sokolsky here. And both sides will not know all this. "Nissan, what's wrong with those two Marines just now?" "Those two are all devil fruit capable users." "Devil fruit users? Really? Are they all the same as you?" "Well, it seems that they are all natural." "Natural. Luo Shindi gasped. Natural devil fruits are rare, but their value is very high. Seeing 2 natural ability users in one day is considered amazing. Seeing Rosindi's appearance, Doflamingo asked Rosie, "Don't you want a fruit? With Adri's ability, I should be able to get one for you." "No, I haven't thought about it yet. After all, there will be a big problem with the seawater in the future." Indeed. Doflamingo squeezed his chin and thought about it. He had thought about this a long time ago. How to operate at sea is extremely restricted if only relying on ships. Sure enough, Adri's suggestion before was still very constructive, but now he is not enough to do it. After practicing it in the future, he can even make him undefeated. 2 days passed quickly. North coast port of the Kingdom of Lunzido. Doflamingo and Rocinante got off the boat with their luggage and saw this bustling area. That's not bad. Of course, economic development is indispensable. "Brother, are we going directly to the Shanghai branch now?" Doflamingo looked around, shook his head and said, "No, the Chamber of Commerce should be able to hear about us and come to greet us in person." Afterwards, Doflamingo found a carriage driving towards them, and the flag hung on it was really the logo of the Star Ocean Chamber of Commerce. I saw the carriage slowly stop in front of the 2 of them. The Shanghai Chamber of Commerce is also the top priority in the Longzhiduo Kingdom, occupying a considerable position, because this branch has many locks and connections, so the Longzhiduo Kingdom where the branch is located is known as a gathering place for trading. Looking at the carriage with the logo of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, other people on the side also showed surprised looks. As we all know, the carriages of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce are only used to receive distinguished guests. The flags of the branches are actually different from the signs of the central government, which is also for the convenience of distinguishing. And a branch will have 2 central flags. It is used to receive people sent by the central government. The luxury of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce's carriage is also directly proportional to the identity of the person who picks it up. And the one in front of Doflamingo and Rosindi is the carriage indicated by the Central Committee of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, and the level of luxury is the most luxurious that the branch can produce. So when this carriage appeared, it undoubtedly aroused many people's onlookers and curiosity, but this carriage stopped in front of the 2 teenagers. Just when everyone was still wondering, the carriage door opened. End of this chapter. Chapter 22 Welcome. Chapter 22 Welcome. What came out was a middle-aged man with a pair of glasses and a tall figure. He looked very rigid. Under his sharp eyes, it seemed that no one could escape the rules. The appearance of this man also aroused heated discussions among the people. "Who's that person? That person looks familiar? You don't even know him?" "I had the pleasure of meeting him at a business meeting. He is the standing director of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce in the Longzhiduo Kingdom. It is said that he is a trusted aide sent by the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce's central government. How did he appear here? Is there any big shot?" While everyone was guessing, this man went straight to Doflamingo and Rosindi, condescendingly bent his waist, made a bow, and introduced himself in a flat tone. "Greetings, my servant, Robert Wells. Long wait, gentlemen." Afterwards, he called the coachman to help carry the luggage. Robert, on the other hand, waited on the 2 young masters and boarded the carriage directly. This series of processes caused the onlookers to not react yet, and it also made them speculate that the identities of the 2 teenagers just now could be greeted by Mr. Robert, who can be said to be covering the sky with his hands in the Longzhiduo Kingdom. Soon the news that Robert welcomed the 2 teenagers spread. And in the carriage, Doflamingo looked at Robert sitting opposite him playfully and asked, "Are you so sure it's us? Aren't you afraid to admit the wrong person directly?" Robert pushed up his spectacles and answered in that same monotonous tone. "Eldest young master, the authenticity of the token between you and second young master can be known at a glance. Please rest assured." Rosindi looked down at the pendant on his chest, feeling puzzled. "That's it, can you tell the difference? That's it, then shouldn't you talk to the 2 of us right now?" Doflamingo crossed his legs and looked at the other side arrogantly. Rosindi also leaned on the side, silent, watching Robert quietly. Robert was mentioned in their information. He is not a simple person. He is indeed a core member of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce and was assigned to come here. However, in a large chamber of commerce, there will always be some people who don't fit in. Robert is one of them. Although there is Adri's suppression, comprehensive control cannot be achieved. If a chamber of commerce is completely decided by one person, then this force is powerful, not to mention Adri's Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. Sometimes it is a necessary disguise. Admiration appeared in Robert's eyes, but it was also fleeting. As a qualified person, it is very important to hide his expression. You two young masters, based on the information your lord gave you, you should have already guessed that there was a conflict within our Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, which led to our losses. The initial suspicion is that someone inside colluded with the royal family members of the Longzhiduo kingdom. Robert reported calmly, as if everything was none of his business. But Doflamingo wouldn't believe this one. It's too unreasonable for him to be assigned by the Central Corps but not deal with such matters. What made Doflamingo most uncertain was why Adri sent them, the two young masters who haven't shown their faces internally, to confuse each other, maybe. Robert smiled at Doflamingo calmly, his manner still elegant. Seeing Robert smile, Doflamingo's smile increased. Then, has Sir Robert ever had someone to suspect? Doflamingo is only on a new chessboard now, and he needs the help of local chess pieces to understand some information. And his sentence is actually a test for Robert, because who knows if this insider is Robert himself guarding and stealing. Rosindi has remained silent all this time. This is what he agreed with Doflamingo, and the division of labor between the two has been clarified. Facing Doflamingo's questioning, Robert still spoke calmly. Currently there is only one suspect and qualified person, the current branch president, Donald. The 54-year-old branch president will be transferred elsewhere next year. He is greedy and lustful. He is short and fat, with a mustache, and his face is very confusing, and he looks amiable on the outside. All of these are materials, and Rosindi recalled the information of that person, but such detailed information about Adri made them feel that everything was ready. However, at present, there is no evidence. Really? Then take us to meet the president first. Anyway, we have some other things to ask. Okay, master. It's just that I'm afraid I won't be able to accompany you all the time. If you need anything, you can call me on the phone. Robert handed over the first phone bug, then stopped the groom, and went down first. Nissan, how is this man? It's deep, it's not revealed. Do you remember what we're going to do? Check the account book, reconcile the accounts. That Mr. Robert should be higher than Donald in office, but he isn't. It's a little strange indeed. Then we can talk about everything after seeing Donald. If you dare to touch our family's money, you are courting death. Indeed, the victim's father has to be busy for a while, and he needs to be punished. An unknown betrayer didn't know that the price of all this was unexpectedly higher than he imagined. In another place, Robert, who got out of the car, quickly came to an empty alley, and soon a figure appeared. Unexpectedly, it's rare for you, an adult, to come out. Robert's glasses reflected a cold light, and his tone of voice was much more human than before. Robert, you are very nice. The deep voice of the opposite figure made people shudder. For a while, everything outside was isolated, and in the quiet alley, only the ticking of running water could be heard. Robert straightened up. I am just doing exactly what I'm told. Really? Then forget it. This is a letter from that one, please continue. The black shadow flicked towards Robert, and a letter was quickly thrown out. Robert's gloved hand caught the fast-moving letter casually, with a trace of dissatisfaction in his eyes. What do you mean by that? It's nothing interesting, it's just for that adult. There is nothing to think about, trust is the foundation. Well then, I wish you success. The black shadow then disappeared again as if the world had evaporated. Robert looked at the letter in his hand with complicated eyes, because this time it was of great importance. He put the letter away and hid himself in the crowd again. At the same time inside the royal palace of the Longzhiduo kingdom, Prince Cyril seemed a little anxious, and Robert greeted the two teenagers at the port, and he used the highest standard. The news made him a little restless. A nobleman who was clinging to him next to him whispered a few words, and Cyril's frowning brows slowly eased. But she still couldn't help looking at the highest place in the palace, which was the residence of his own brother, King Via. The amount of each chapter has become less, because it is a bit hard to write. End of this chapter. Chapter 23 Preliminary. Chapter 23 Preliminary, the second wave of poisonous circles will be refreshed soon. Ah, welcome both of you. A short, fat old man with a mustache appeared, with a smile on his face like a kind grandfather, extending his arms to welcome the two young masters in the middle. Doflamingo looked at the man in front of him blankly, walked forward with his hands in his pockets, and simply skipped the man. This man was none other than the chapter president, Donald. Donald did not express displeasure at Doflamingo's indifference, but hurriedly followed and introduced him graciously behind him. It's an honor for the young master to come to our branch. This is Donald, the manager of the branch. Doflamingo didn't talk nonsense and went directly to the topic. Prepare the accounts and prepare a room. Donald, who was following behind, paused and gave a wink to a subordinate beside him. The other party will leave. Of course, eldest young master, I have ordered people to prepare it. Look, why don't you take a rest first? Get ready in Shiado. No need. Doflamingo refused, but was interrupted by Rosindi, who had been following silently. Nissan, let's take a rest first, after all we have been in the carriage for so long. Doflamingo glanced coldly at Rosindi, who had a gentle smile on his face, then snorted coldly. Whatever. Seeing the two brothers getting along, Donald's eyes lit up. Grandpa Donald, please lead me away. Okay, no problem. You must be the second young master, you are indeed a good-looking talent. Donald's eyes were narrowed from the smile. In contrast, Rosindi looked far more polite than Doflamingo, and seemed a little gentler. Donald quickly led the two of them to a room, which was luxuriously decorated with classical appliances, and a huge bright chandelier hung on the top of the wall. There are two large sofas in the center, green plants beside the sofa, and a retro-style round table, a square carpet on the floor, and some valuable paintings hanging on the walls. The lighting inside the room is excellent, and the view from here is first class. Donald respectfully invited the two of them in. Seeing the interior, even Doflamingo couldn't help but sigh. Doflamingo and Rosinetti sat on the comfortable sofa and looked around. Donald introduced the decorations on the wall, and there are also many antique vases. Soon, a servant brought fruit and a variety of local specialty drinks for the two of them. Even Donald hinted whether he needed a beautiful woman to accompany him, but Rosindi, who was almost choking, quickly refused. Looking at the two people who were serving delicious food and drinks, Donald kept smiling. After all, in his opinion, these two children were just here for fun, not for real. As long as I serve the two young masters well, then there may be room for my dispatch. Doflamingo looked at Donald's posture, and there must be something wrong, but Doflamingo didn't want to take care of it. After all, this was Adrian's property, and he wanted to take care of his own. Donald looked at the two, and then took out two boxes from the attendant and placed them on the table. This is just a little bit of caution. Donald opened the box to reveal the Baileys full of them. It's all used as pocket money for the two young masters. Looking at the two boxes of Baileys in front of him, Doflamingo couldn't help but sit up straight, then picked up a stack and played with it in his hand. Money that comes for nothing, don't want it for nothing. Rosindi was a little embarrassed. No matter how you looked at it, it was like a bribe, but he didn't understand it until a moment. Oh, by the way, I have a granddaughter who is 13 years old. She is about the same age as the two young masters. Maybe you have something in common. Donald sat on a chair and signaled his subordinates to call him over. This was also his plan from the beginning. Maybe, after all, even though the two young masters had no real power in the Chamber of Commerce, they couldn't bear the favor of each other's father. Those who work at the top of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, who would not know that the young master of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce is extremely loved by the chairman. There are also many people in the outside world who want to hit the two young masters because they cannot get in touch with Adri. However, the two young masters seldom appear in public, so it was extremely lucky to be able to meet him this time. This kind of thing, of course, has to be tried by his own granddaughter. Although Donald didn't have the mentality of success, it was still necessary to try his luck and make a face in front of the two young masters. Just when Rosindi was confused by the operation of the old man in front of him, the door opened. A fair lady came in and walked towards Donald. Grandpa, I'm here. Oh, Nana, these are the two young masters from the Central Committee of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. The girl named Nana curtsied to the two very politely. "Good day, two young masters, I am Anna." Seeing his granddaughter's good performance, Donald nodded. "You young people chat first, and I, the old man, will leave first." When he left the door, a middle-aged man in rich clothes stepped forward and whispered, "Father, is this necessary?" Donald took a hard look at his ineffective son and reprimanded him. "You bastard, don't you understand the meaning of this?" The middle-aged man who was reprimanded looked at his angry father and could only nod repeatedly, but there was a hint of cruelty in his lowered eyes. "By the way, you also went to help prepare the ledger, right?" "Yes, it is." "You shouldn't mess around, right?" "Of course." The middle-aged man lowered his head even lower. Then Donald laughed. The middle-aged man looked at Donald's back, clenched his fists unconsciously, and came to a room. There was a frowning man sitting inside, and when he saw the middle-aged man coming in, he greeted him feebly. "George, here you come." George also found a comfortable place to sit. "Prince Sarah, why are you here?" "George, you know. Our business." "His Royal Highness, there are only two brats here, but they are of a prominent status." "The son of the chairman of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce is only a bit prominent?" "Listen, George, we're grasshoppers on a rope, and your father may be a little aware of our affairs. If my brother knows too, we'll be in trouble." Prince Sarah's face was a bit ferocious, warning. George looked embarrassed and kept rubbing his fingers. "Robert got involved too, you know." "So what, you don't want to choose to go out?" Both Prince Sale and George fell silent again. "George, don't forget our original intention." "Of course I know." "Don't tell me, you dare not." Looking at the indifferent George, Searle noticed it a little bit, and looked at George with a sense of disappointment. Then there was nothing to do, and then the two broke up unhappy. Ask for everything, ask for collection, let a few people comment. It's so quiet that I can't feel the presence. Let me experience a continuous flow of information. End of this chapter. Chapter 24 Exposing Poisonous Point. Chapter 24 Exposing, Recommendation Ticket Update, Poisonous Point. Doflamingo flipped through the accounts in front of him, his eyes looked a little gloomy. This account is very reasonable as if it is fake, and there are too many flaws. It may be thought that Doflamingo is a child and will not care. Rosinindi also walked over to the side, picking up another account book and flipping through it. He is not as proficient as Doflamingo in this area of business, but he will not fail to understand everything. After all, the data given by Adriatic is clearly written, and there are a lot of actual deficits. Beside them, there was an attendant watching with a smile. But he didn't pay much attention to Flamingo's wink. He was just playing around with the young master, and he was still thinking, why did it take so long to see him? Master George personally called him here to observe the attitude of the young and old. "Hey, the one next to you." Hearing that, the servant who was suddenly nominated hurried forward. "Yes, sir, what are your orders?" "Call President Donald, we have something to discuss with him alone." The attendant was taken aback for a moment, then quickly nodded and went out. He is now hesitating whether to tell Lord George first. After a while, Donald appeared from the door, looking a little out of breath. "You two young masters, what can I do for you?" Donald was a little uncertain, and calling him over to look at the accounts made him a little uneasy. Seeing Donald rushing over, Doflamingo didn't say much, just threw the account book on the table without saying a word. Donald was a little at a loss, and quickly opened the ledger. Donald is even more uncertain now. He once recalled whether he had missed a little bit in which position. He shouldn't. He obviously made everything foolproof. Just in case, he even asked his only son, George, to save the account book. To replace. But when Donald opened the accounts, he was shocked. The more I turned down, the colder I felt. This should not be the ledger he asked George to prepare. No matter how stupid George was, he would not want to put such a perfect account. Besides, George is also specialized in helping manage finances, so it is impossible not to know about this aspect. Donald couldn't help taking a peek at Doflamingo, who was waiting for his explanation, and Rosindi, who was silently leaning on the side. Are these two really young masters of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce? Why does it feel more like the young master of a gangster? Donald's hand shook again. He could still hold on, but the aura was still a bit strong. Looking at Donald, who didn't say a word, Doflamingo was not in a hurry, but said calmly, "I have Robert's phone bug, and I suddenly thought of calling him just now." Doflamingo took out a phone bug and played with it. "Wait a minute. Eldest young master, there must be some misunderstanding. I will immediately ask someone to bring the real account book." Donald didn't want to see Robert come, because Robert was theoretically just a tie, and he had no right to inspect without preconditions. If the young master called him, the other party would definitely investigate to the end. As for him, Donald, it seems that he can't find it, because if there is anything wrong, Robert has the right to report him to the central government. Donald called on the people around him to find George. But Doflamingo just smiled and said nothing, intending to quietly watch Donald's solo performance. Anyway, he was not in a hurry. There was a sound of rapid footsteps. "Father, did you call me?" George knocked on the door and entered. Looking at the account book on the table, his heart tightened, and he decided to go forward. Pointing to the ledger on the table, Donald said coldly, "See for yourself." George tremblingly picked up the ledger to look through it, fell to the ground, and hurried forward to explain. Please listen to my explanation. This is not the original ledger." Doflamingo looked at the man in front of him amusedly. "What about the real ledger?" "I'll get it now." Seeing George, who immediately rummaged through boxes and boxes, Doflamingo couldn't help but smile, and gave a slight reminder. "Robert is already on his way." "What?" Donald looked at Doflamingo with disbelief. Grandpa Doflamingo just smiled back. "Is there something wrong? President Tang, Na, and De?" Seeing Doflamingo's aggravated pause, Donald quickly waved his hand to indicate that nothing happened. But at this moment, Robert came in with someone. A group of people first controlled the surrounding attendants, and then ordered the personnel to search. A series of quick movements. Even Luo Shidi was still in a state of confusion. Soon a ledger was turned over and delivered to Robert, and Robert delivered the ledger to Doflamingo, who was sitting on the sofa. "Master, please take a look." Doflamingo took the account and kept flipping through it. After turning a few pages, his face was full of black lines, and he threw the account to Robert. Robert didn't flip it too much after catching it, but looked at Donald naturally. "Then, I think it's time for Mr. Donald to explain." Donald remained calm on the surface, and whispered to Robert, "It's against the rules for you to break in like this, let alone bring people with you." Robert is indifferent. This matter is related to the young master, so it needs to be special. "Eldest young master, do you mind letting me solve the problem?" Doflamingo raised his mouth. "It's up to you." And at this moment, everyone found another ledger, and Donald's expression darkened. Robert led the crowd to the capital of the Longzito Kingdom. After all, some procedures had to go through the king. That night Prince Serge of the Kingdom of Longzito failed in the mutiny and was captured alive on the spot. What everyone didn't know was that George and Donald were also taken into custody. Robert visited Doflamingo in the dark to report the incident to him. Prince Cyril wanted to carry out the mutiny through the greedy money from George, and George was also confused by Cyril's promise to take the branch as his own and become the president. In fact, Donald knew it all along, but he allowed his son to collude with the prince. Because he was convinced that he could turn against the general and take everything for himself. "Robert, you've been on my father's side from the beginning, haven't you?" Doflamingo spoke calmly. Robert didn't panic when he saw that he was exposed. The young master has good eyesight. From the beginning, the so-called disagreement with the inside was just a smoke bomb for Robert, but it was obvious that Donald was afraid that he would also come to grab his territory. There was a situation where Robert used the name of the enemy to win him over. And Donald is one of the less well-behaved ones, and Robert needs to observe. The resources of the branch of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce are so rich that people can't help it. In addition, as long as part of the money is given to the Tianlong people as heavenly gold, and the Longkiduo Kingdom joins forces with this branch, Long the Kaido Kingdom is a member country, and the Central Star Sea cannot touch them. Looking at Robert, who admitted it at once, Doflamingo felt bored, but the pace of everything today is too fast, it seems that it has been planned for a long time, and everything is displayed in front of him like a picture scroll. Inner dungeon of Lunzito Kingdom. I'm doing this to save the country. You are all deceived. A helpless cry resounded inside, but no one responded. Prince Cell, who was locked in the cell, fell powerlessly aside. At this time, there was also a person approaching him. The man walked slowly with the crown on. When Searle saw the person in front of him, he immediately became angry, rushed to the iron rod, and questioned loudly, "Via, how can you?" The person who came was Prince Sarah's brother, King Via. King Via looked at his scruffy brother in front of him. "You should have enjoyed it. I'm doing it for the country. I am also for the country." King Via said nothing, just sighed and left. End of this chapter. Chapter 25 Chapter Return. Chapter 25 Return, Recommendation Ticket plus Update. Within a few days, Doflamingo and Rosindi returned. For Doflamingo, the only gain was that he got a lot of good things at the auction. Regardless of the money or not, Robert has been helping to pay. However, Doflamingo also discovered that the auction house makes money, which will become a big help for him in the future. The sailing back was smooth sailing, and someone had come to pick them up at the port. The two brothers looked at Adri, who greeted them with a slightly weird expression. Doflamingo said quietly, "Adri, are you going to see someone again?" Adri looked at the surprise in Doflamingo's eyes, and waved his hand. "No. Today's Adriatic hair is golden, which is different from the black in the past, and it didn't look pleasing to the eye for a while." "How is it? Doesn't it look much better this way?" Adri seemed to be still not used to it, so he put his hands behind his head. Rosindi nodded happily. Then Adri solemnly picked up Rosindi, took Doflamingo's hand, and swaggered towards the special ship that greeted them. It's not for anything else, it's just because someone has a bad mouth and thinks that Adri's hair color makes it difficult for others to think that they are not father and son. Immediately dyed a gold. "Hey Dover, Rossi, tell me, are we more like father and son in this way?" Hearing Adri's words, Doflamingo was taken aback for a moment, and understood Adri's intentions, and Rosindi in his arms also understood why Adri suddenly dyed his hair blonde. "Now, their family looks much neater." "Humph, who told you to dye this hair color? It's not as good looking as black." Doflamingo laughed and mocked, but held Adri's hand even tighter. Rosindi showed a gentle smile, watching the people around her being attracted by their warmth. Rosindi felt very good. Because of this, he looked more like his father's son. Time passes quickly. 1497 Hyuan calendar. Roger became the One Piece and arrived at the final island, shocking the world. At this time, due to puberty, Doflamingo's height suddenly jumped to nearly 2 meters. Or maybe because of puberty, Doflamingo's hair is a little long, combed back through a pair of goggles. In the past 2 or 3 years, Doflamingo has already begun to run around in the sea, and some gangster forces on the mainland have developed quite well. Although he is still the young master of the gang, he has not become a pirate. Doflamingo couldn't help but sigh when he saw the newspaper that Golda Roger became the One Piece. Phew, how time flies. Looking at his neurotic son, Adri said, "Let him go." Doflamingo is thinking about piercing his ears now. He needs to be more enlightened as a father. But for him, as long as his son is still an individual. After all, Adri squeezed the pendant on his ear, and his heart warmed a lot. This was Adri's birthday present after returning from Doflamingo's inspection last time. Adri has always carried it in order to appear serious. Adri still remembers it until now, but Doflamingo looked reluctant, and handed the box in his hand to himself from a long distance. After Adri picked it up and looked at it, he was still very nervous. In the end, I watched Adri carry it all the time, still looking arrogant. "It's just a random thing I bought." "No way, my son is at Sundara." Adri stepped forward and interrupted Doflamingo, who was still giggling, grabbed the newspaper, and handed over a book. Reading more books is good for the development of your gangster, and you still have to learn how to win people's hearts. Doflamingo glanced at the title of the book in disgust, and asked Adrian, "Aren't you interested? That's the world's first pirate king. The legendary island and countless wealth. Forget it." "Why, Dover also wants to become the pirate king?" Adri pointed to Roger's arrest warrant in the newspaper. "Humph, Do you know that this will usher in a new era? Doflamingo's expression was more excited, and he sat on the chair instead, looking at Adri, with an undisguised smile on his face. Adrian calmly sat on the sofa and drank coffee. Dover, then just go ahead and do it. One Piece has it all, and it's not bad for others. Seeing Adri like this all the time, Doflamingo has long been used to it. He got up and sat on the sofa next to Adri, picked up a bottle of wine directly, and pretended to drink it. Doflamingo looked at the indifferent Adri, and stopped the movement of his hands, but he was a little curious. You won't stop me? If you dare to drink, I will beat you to the ground. Listening to Adri's unremarkable speech, Doflamingo put down the wine sincerely. Sometimes it is very important to admit counsel when you can't beat the opponent. Don't ask why. Doflamingo knows it very well. He just doesn't want to experience the impact of the speed of light again, and there is an extra hole in his home, and he has to fill it in by himself. Looking at Doflamingo, who was a bit resentful, Adri still said, "You'll be able to drink it next year." For Adri's speech, Doflamingo still felt a little aggrieved, thinking about his generation of young masters, who are all 16 years old, and his family still cares whether he drinks or not. "I'll drink with you next year." "Oh? You can drink too?" Doflamingo asked. It wasn't him bragging, he only saw Adri drink a small amount of red wine at the dinner party. Adri prefers coffee and tea most of the time. "Dover, by the way, I want to tell you one thing. I plan to give you a share in the high-end wine business of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce next year. How about trying those new wines first every year?" Doflamingo looked at Adri in disbelief. He knew that Adri was not very good at joking, especially in this kind of thing. But Doflamingo was also very clear that Adri's so-called point is so much. Good wine is the heart and soul of many people, and the profits in this business need not be mentioned too much. The good wine can also be used to make friends with some great swordsmen who are addicted to alcohol. But since Adri gave it, don't take it for nothing. Pfeffer, you were so generous this time. If you give me such a piece of fat, you won't be afraid of me. Doflamingo didn't go on because it wasn't necessary. Adri is sometimes too kind to them, too trusting. You know, it's not enough for me to give something to my son. But you have to remember, this is only for your own family. On your side, sometimes pay more attention. After all, it can be regarded as being with you. Foo, of course I won't treat the people on my side badly, they are my family no matter what. It's good if you can think like this. I heard that. How many people are there? Yes, it's still a devil fruit capable user. Luck is awesome. Doflamingo felt that Adri was implicating him, but he had no evidence, and the other party was extremely perfunctory. Dong dong. Knock on the door. Rosindi came in from the door and said, "Hello father, brother, are you talking about something?" Rosindi found an empty space and sat down, leaning on it in a relaxed manner. "No, Rosie, have you read the paper?" Rosindi looked up at the newspaper on the table. One Piece? I never thought about it before. Brother, don't you want to be the next One Piece? Seeing Luo Shidi solve the case in one fell swoop, it can only be said that Luo Shidi knows his brother too well. Doflamingo didn't refute either, he just looked at his extremely stupid brother. Doflamingo wanted to ask Rosindi to join the Don Quixote family, but he refused. Adri is very timely put forward. Dover, you should really be like Rosie sometimes. Gift Theater of this year, April 7th. Rosindi's birthday. Adri's gift is Rosindi's favorite. It is a feather coat of the same style as Adrian, but it is dark purple. Rosindi is still a little short now, but when he grows up, he will wear it with a very attractive style. Now Rosindi will look just right in this. How about it, Rosie, do you like it? Rosindi nodded, and then glanced at the pure black feather coat that Adri was wearing. He simply put it on, stood with Adri, learned the cross-legged way Adri often did, and successfully exchanged Adri a blowout in Derry. If you like this one, I'll ask someone to send you a few more pieces, and then I'll send you the same style that is tailored to your body shape every year. Looking at Adri and Rosindi, who are wearing the same feather coat, Doflamingo's eyes are a bit subtle. He seems to want it too. Adri looked at Doflamingo and comforted. Dover, how about I bring yours ahead of time? How many months will your birthday be? Who cares? Doflamingo refused very firmly. Then, on the night of October 10 RD Doflamingo can't put it down in a pink feather coat. End of this chapter. Chapter 26 Dover, do you have a girlfriend? Chapter 26 Dover, do you have a girlfriend? In the long corridor, under the dim light, only Doflamingo in a pink feather coat was wandering alone, holding the latest newspaper in his hand, which read impressively. One Piece Roger is arrested. Birth of a naval hero. The corner of Doflamingo's mouth couldn't help but rise. To his surprise, there were people he knew on it. If he remembered correctly, the photo of the so-called naval hero was the Vice Admiral Carp he had seen. In terms of seniority, he might want to call him Uncle Garp, but he is as reckless as he is, so how can he care about seniority? Doflamingo stopped at the door of a room, pushed the door open, and the people in the room were sitting at the desk without even raising their heads, and shouted. Dover, it's better to knock on the door if you have time. Doflamingo simply sat on the sofa and looked at Adri, who was reviewing the documents, and the middle-aged woman who was standing next to Adri, wearing high heels and looking serious. This woman did not attract attention because of Doflamingo, and she exuded a strong professional female atmosphere from top to bottom. Doflamingo eyed the newcomer amusedly, the kind of person he rarely sees around his father. Is this the new secretary? Adrian still didn't look up, and responded. This shows that he is still a little busy now, and then Adri handed the document in his hand to the woman beside him. Petra, I will leave the rest to you. The woman named Petra lowered her head slightly to express her understanding, then she walked out of the room calmly. Adri, who had finally finished his work, relaxed, picked up the coffee on the side and sipped it carefully, and introduced Petra to Doflamingo just now, with a hint of appreciation in his words. The secretary I recruited just now is very capable, which made me feel a lot easier. Listening to Adri's words, Doflamingo laughed and joked. Really, I think the other party still has charm. Adri didn't pay attention to Doflamingo's words, but asked angrily. What's the matter? Let me guess? About One Piece? Phew, it seems that you already know it. After all, you are very familiar with naval heroes. Naval hero? A certain One Piece turned himself in. Adri calmly narrated a seemingly ordinary thing, but it was beyond Doflamingo's expectation. He did not expect Adri to have some information here. Adri glanced at Doflamingo and said to himself, want to know why? Doflamingo just looked at Adri speechlessly. He didn't know whether it was his illusion or what. He felt that Adri's age was not as calm as he imagined, but a little old. Doflamingo also felt strange. How could Roger surrender himself when he had just reached his peak? Adri smiled and said nothing, did not tell Doflamingo the answer, but just said a One Piece's execution. Who do you think will be there? Doflamingo also laughed. Sometimes the conversation between them doesn't need to be said explicitly, which can't be missed. Then I have to go. Adri, won't you go? Me? Let me rest. How is your ship? It's almost finished. It looks like you're leaving too. Adri seems to be very open-minded. Doflamingo is also going to start sailing at sea. Although he is only 17 years old, he should get out of the house at this age. Doflamingo felt the joy in Adrian's tone, and immediately got up and leaned over the desk. Adri, you seem to be very happy? Of course, boys, you always have to go out to make a living. You don't want to wait for me to kick you out later, do you? Adrian looked shocked, rubbing his hair indifferently to the condescending Doflamingo. Anyway, you'll find me annoying too. How about it? When are you going to go out? Doflamingo suddenly sat down on the desk, just like he did when he was first adopted by Adri, with his legs crossed and an expression of disapproval. Anyway, I'm leaving soon. Yes. Adri said, took out the phone from his pocket, and shook it. Then remember to contact me then? It's best to come back with me once a year. Okay, fur. Doflamingo's mood improved in an instant. It seemed that Adri still hated him, but the mobile phone is also a good thing in the future. Adri told him that it was better than a phone bug, and that it was not easy to be monitored. To be honest, you grow up really fast. Are you 2 meters tall? Adri started remembering. I knew I would have taken a few more photos of you back then. Wait, you won't keep my old photos? Doflamingo suddenly tensed up. On the other hand, Adri put on an expression that you can guess. There is also a picture of Rosindi. It's the time he ate pizza. Doflamingo silently took out his phone. Send me the picture. This works, I have some others here, would you like? Adri also started to fiddle with the mobile phone, and the two heads-downers started exchanging with each other. Fortunately, Rosindi was not there. If he found out, he might have eaten the phone on the spot. And Doflamingo started to save wildly with the mentality of being a good brother. How could he not have ugly photos of his own brother? If someone went in at this moment, they would see two grinning faces illuminated by the light from the phone screen. Dover, how is the three-color domineering? After finishing the business, Adri remembered some bits and pieces. Is it domineering? Except for domineering, no. Has already handed over all the two-color domineering he can give me, and I can fight with no. That's it, then we still need to work hard. After all, even though the domineering aura of the king's color is unique, there are many people in this world, and the domineering aura of the king's color is also divided into levels. Fufurfur, of course I know this, but if I don't have any courage, how can I become a king? It's up to you. I just hope that you won't be beaten and sent to jail by a person under 20 years old, and you will fall a big somersault on the other person, or the kind that raises tigers. How is it possible? I wouldn't do such a stupid thing. I hope, if this is the case, I have to turn my face in advance. Turn your face? Those bastards with Marie Joya. Dover, are you trying to scold yourself? I'm completely different from them. It's not all because you think you can do it, there will always be someone else who can do it. The water there is deep. Doflamingo's expression became crazy, and with a hint of bewilderment, he approached Adri. Hey, Adri, aren't you curious about the secrets of the Holy Land? Dover, how many times do you want me to say that? I'm not at all interested in that. Doflamingo also immediately restrained himself, so he had the right to make a joke. He had thought about this kind of thing a long time ago. The purpose of Adri's adoption of them, but after a few years, it is obvious that Adri really has no interest in this aspect. And he can only be a little disappointed. What Doflamingo didn't know was that Adri had lied. He was not interested in the Holy Land, but he had planned for a long time to adopt Doflamingo and Rosindi. Doflamingo also knows that Adri has truly fulfilled the responsibility of a father, although Doflamingo seldom calls Adri father directly, and he is a little envious of Rosindi in this respect, but Doflamingo is willing to call Adri as his father when he is away. That is his real family, except for Rosindi's second family. Adri, who obviously didn't know what Doflamingo was thinking, approached Doflamingo at this time, and asked seriously. Dover, do you have a girlfriend? Seek investment really come on for nothing. I think my book can go on. End of this chapter. Chapter 27 Departure. Chapter 27 Departure. Dover, don't let me see you these few years, let me relax for a few years, and then I will come to see you. Adri waved goodbye to Doflamingo, who was riding his own pirate ship, but Doflamingo in the distance had black lines all over his head. Rosindi came to say goodbye together, but in fact he also planned to go out for a walk. Of course Adri readily agreed. It would be nice to be able to throw both of the family's cubs out at once and give himself a vacation. Then, under the astonished gaze of Rosindindi, Adri directly handed over a burden, and drove Rosindindi directly to the departing German ship. Before leaving, Adri tried to persuade. Boys need to be independent, go outside and play for self-reliance, as long as they can't die. Rosindi originally imagined that Adri would be very reluctant, but he didn't expect that he would even prepare his burden. Sure enough, when I grow up, I don't love anymore. But when he opened the package and found his favorite prunes, he waved goodbye very simply and ate the prunes. Adri also turned around very neatly and was about to go. He was going to take a walk-and-go trip, but he didn't know that when Rosindi looked through the luggage carefully, he would find that there were only 1,000 Baileys and a change of clothes in it. What expression! In fact, Rosindi has already planned everything. First, he will travel for 2 years, travel around the world, and finally check the situation. But under the current situation, it seems that he has to travel poorly, and he hopes that fair evasion by boat will not be caught. Doflamingo's goal is very clear. Roger's execution date and location have been announced. He is ready to meet the waves of the sea. All members of the Don Quixote family have already held a banquet on the ship to celebrate their first voyage. Adri also boarded a private speedboat. This year is the 1500th year of the lunar calendar. O'Hara parishes. Ace was born, Sabo was born. It was also a year when the Adrian family went on their own trips. Adri's purpose at the beginning was to experience the plot. Now, Roger has long since died, and the gears of the plot began to turn slowly. Everything is so natural, and it has become inevitable under the fuel of the situation. Adrian was lying on the recliner, wearing sunglasses. His body began to change. The blonde hair mixed with white hair turned back to black in an instant. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes began to fade quickly, and the bones creaked. The original middle-aged image, all the energy dissipated in an instant. If Doflamingo and Rosindi were present, they would be surprised to find. At this time, Adrian looked exactly the same as when they first met. Adri has regained his youth again, not only in appearance, body, but also breath. The people on the speedboat just knelt on one knee and lowered their heads deeply. The people present are all Adri's cronies, and they have long been familiar with the strangeness of their own adults. These people also include No, and No. Adri stretched his body, felt relaxed, looked at the phone screen, and gradually fell silent. Adri thought to himself, it seems that this kind of trivial matter does not need to be told to the children, and he should go to enjoy the vacation. Adri put the phone away and started today's vacation. Time forward to Rosindi's side. Rosindi quickly finished eating a large jar of prunes before the ship reached its destination. But fortunately, Rosindi's extremely careless falls totaled 23 times, and none of the prunes wasted. But at this moment, he looked at the 1,000 Baileys in his hand and fell into deep thought. The place he was going to was several sea areas other than the North Sea. He was hesitant, wondering if the 1,000 Baileys would be enough for him to eat 3 meals. If it doesn't work, he can only go hunting and make money while walking. But the more optimistic Rosindi decided to go sightseeing first. He opened his plan book, which listed several places he was going to, such as Alabasta. There are also many travel plans and local specialties on it. Now he hopes that Adri's Chamber of Commerce can be opened further, so that if he really can't stand it, he can rob his own Chamber of Commerce and use it as pocket money. At most, let's have a fight with Adri. Anyway, since his father can't find him, then he can play casually the other side. Numantia Flamingo, as the name suggests, the entire hull is a flamingo, and the flamingo is wearing the same glasses as Doflamingo's, but Doflamingo hasn't figured out the pirate logo yet. Doflamingo's preference for pink may have something to do with flamingos. Adri also specially bought some real flamingos as pets for Doflamingo in the early days. After witnessing the execution of Roger the Pirate King, Doflamingo can still recall the magnificence of that time. One Piece is real. Roger put all his treasures on the final island, and because of Roger's words, the era of great pirates will also be set off. Doflamingo met a lot of interesting people at the time, and he managed to make a friend. The opponent's eagle-like eyes are unforgettable. Although the opponent is young, he exudes a sharp sword aura all over his body. The opponent is much older than Flamingo, but it is also obvious that the opponent will definitely have a place in the sea in the future. It was precisely because of Adri that Doflamingo still had a bottle of fine wine on his body at the time, which impressed this cold swordsman, and the opponent was Joracle Mihawk. Doflamingo was very sure that he might meet him in the future, so he gave him a few bottles of red wine afterwards. Although Mihawk didn't want to talk to Doflamingo at first, but the red wine offered by Doflamingo was of high quality, so Mihawk didn't refuse. At this time, Doflamingo turned his attention to the present again. The future development direction of the Don Quixote family will be finalized through the family meeting. Now is the beginning of his grand plan. Doflamingo has already chosen an unlucky guy, and as long as he takes one step at a time, he will eventually reach the top, so that his name as Don Quixote Doflamingo will finally resound across the sea. Somewhere in the West Sea, a small figure continued to shuttle through the street, but the firelight behind her lit up half the sky. The little figure kept dodging. She hid in a corner, covered her mouth and dared not make a sound. She picked up a reward order on the ground, looked at the picture on it, angrily crumpled the reward order and threw it away. At this moment, the little figure curled up, tears streaming out helplessly, but she didn't dare to cry out. Come and give some advice. End of this chapter. Chapter 28 The Girl Needed. Chapter 28 The girl needed. The Don Quixote family came to an island for supplies. The island is overgrown with weeds. When I dared to come, I encountered many hungry people trying to attack them to get food, but before Doflamingo could make a move, he was repelled by other family members. At this time, Virgo, who had finished exploring the terrain, came back, but he was still carrying a little guy in his hand. Doflamingo looked at Virgo, who came back. Virgo, are you eating tricolored dumplings again? Also, what's in your hand? Virgo obviously didn't notice that the tricolor ball was sticking to his face again, and it was still attached to the stick. He took off the tricolor ball and shook the little guy in his hand, found it in the forest. Then Virgo threw it casually, and what he threw on the ground was a child who looked like 3 or 4 years old, with a dirty face and dirt all over his body. It's just that what made Doflamingo look sideways was that the child's hand turned into a knife due to the stress reaction of the fall, right in plain sight. Pika stepped forward to check, and it really turned into a pair of scissors. Interesting, it's a devil fruit-capable user. This child should have been eaten by mistake. The members of the Don Quixote family gathered together to observe this dirty cub, and then all looked at Doflamingo in the center. Everything still needs to be ordered by Doflamingo. Doflamingo looked at the little guy in front of him and fell into deep thought, then stretched out his hand to the child, and asked softly, "Little guy, how about joining us and becoming a member of our Don Quixote family?" And the child began to shine because of Doflamingo's words. Am I needed? Well, I am willing. Great. I am needed. Looking at the happy little guy, Virgo added, "This kid is very content." Indeed, Doflamingo saw everything in his eyes. Toribol stepped forward. Hey, I said, we can keep this child and serve us when he grows up." A devil fruit ability user picked up in vain. Of course Doflamingo also understood this, so he held out his hand to the little guy in front of him. "Since this child will be one of us from now on, Yora, please clean up this child, and we will have dinner together then." "Yes, my lord." A slender woman with fluffy curly hair and a pair of inverted triangle glasses picked up the cub and left. Seeing this scene, Doflamingo was deep in thought, and Toribol stepped forward. "Hey, young master, what are you thinking?" Doflamingo avoided Toribol, whose slime was annoying after all. But those present at the moment are all those who have been with him for a long time, and he slowly expressed his thoughts. "Maybe we can adopt more children in the future and let them grow up to be our people." "I think it works." "I think so." "Well, in the future, we still need to pay more attention to children with devil fruit abilities or talents becoming the new blood of our Don Quixote family. By the way, Virgo, how is the investigation going?" Doflamingo is still very tolerant towards Virgo. After all, Virgo's age is not much different from him, and the two are even more trustworthy like brothers. "Young master, I have observed it. It seems that there is a reward offerer passing through that forest, and it seems to be guarding something. There should be something good there." "That's it, young master, let me go." "Diamanti, don't worry, go after dinner first, the treasure you get won't run away." "Since you said so, then I admit it." Everyone present can be said to be loyal to Doflamingo and respect Doflamingo's choice, because Doflamingo is also their choice. At dinner, Yora appeared with a handsome child. Now it's clean and looks better. Yora sits down and the child, who was a little at a loss, was called to him by Doflamingo. "What's your name?" "I don't know, I shouldn't have a name. From then on, you will be called Baby 5. Baby 5. My name." "Thank you, young master." "My lord?" "Yora taught you." "Well, I'm needed. Master Yora said that I can serve as a maid in the future." "Well, then you will be a trainee member of our Don Quixote family from now on." The smile on Baby 5's face was almost overflowing. She nodded with a smile, and then stood aside obediently, not intending to disturb Doflamingo's meal, but her face was still puffy, and she stood reservedly. Doflamingo looked at the girl in need, and greeted helplessly. "Baby 5, go and move a small chair by yourself, and come and eat together." "Okay. My lord." Baby 5 trotted immediately and moved a chair in the corner, ate the bread very cautiously, completely ignoring the other meals on the table. It would be nice for her to have something to eat. Baby 5 recalled that when she met Virgo before, the other party asked her to lead the way, and the sense of need filled her whole body. Now, she has joined a place that needs her. It may be her greatest blessing to be met by the young master and the others today. Although others don't know what Baby 5 is thinking, Yora seems to like this girl very much. Doflamingo was also thinking that he should let this little guy get acquainted with others by then. After dinner, Doflamingo led the members of the Don Quixote family to the guarded place. They also specially brought Baby 5. After all, this also needs to examine Baby 5. Waste is useless after all. If Baby 5 has no use, then even if there is a devil fruit, it will not perform well, and it is only a matter of time before it is discarded. A group of people came to the place quickly, but they also alarmed the guardian. The other party was a middle-aged man with a rough face and a burly figure. He would not sit still in the face of someone's invasion. Don Quixote and his party remained silent, as if ignoring each other at all. Only Diamante drew his sword and stepped forward. In the beginning, the appearance of the middle-aged man made the weak Baby 5 instinctively afraid, and even dodged a little. But seeing Diamante put the opponent down with ease, he felt a little bolder in his heart. Pika and Virgo went first to collect the spoils. Doflamingo took Baby 5 forward and came to the middle-aged burly man who couldn't move for a while. Baby 5, finish him. Baby 5 hesitated for a moment, although he was a little scared, but the young master said, then Baby 5's hand turned into a sharp blade. Baby 5 closed his eyes tightly, and waved. It's a pity that the stroke was too shallow, and the middle-aged man who was lying on the ground suddenly jumped up and attacked Baby 5. Doflamingo shook his hand calmly, and the middle-aged man was scratched by the silk thread. His throat was cut with one blow, and he fell heavily. And Baby 5, who was terrified just now, hugged Doflamingo's thigh and started crying. Doflamingo also let the little girl cry, and touched Baby 5's head to show comfort. At least Baby 5 passed, but it still needs to be cultivated. Looking at the trousers soaked in tears, Doflamingo's expression immediately became gloomy, and he got rid of the pendant on his leg. Virgo and Pika, who searched, also appeared. Pika carried a box on his back, and what was exposed in the box was a batch of fine gold. Virgo handed a piece of parchment in his hand to Doflamingo. Young master, this looks like a treasure map. After taking it, Doflamingo glanced at it hastily and put it away, asking, anything else? Diamante went to search, and there will be results soon. Then we'll set sail tomorrow and change places. Yes. Request collection, seek investment. End of this chapter. Chapter 29. Rossi and Amp, hashtag 039, S Travels and Dover and Amp, hashtag 039, S Discovery. Chapter 29. Rossi's Travels and Dover's Discovery, recommended ticket plus more. Luo Xindi's trip came to Luoga town in the East China Sea. Because this is also a check-in point for celebrities, and Roger the Pirate King died only a few years ago, but among the many people who opened it, there are more pirates who want to go to the Great Route. The current rogue town is even known as the town of beginning and end because of the death of One Piece. Rosindi took the video camera that he got somewhere during the trip and was shooting. What shocked Rosindi the most was the execution platform where Roger was executed in the center of the square, but Rosindi couldn't figure it out. The place where the majestic One Piece was executed looked a little weak and fragile. Perhaps this is also a little bad taste of the Navy. Although the current time is not the peak season for travel, there are still many outsiders who still stop at the square, looking up at the place where the former One Piece king died. One of them caught Rosindi's attention. It's hard to say how old the other person looked, but the expression on his face seemed to say, I'm awesome, don't mess with me. The other had light purple hair, was wearing a leather wallet, a large gold chain around his neck, and black boots. The other party obviously noticed Rosindi's scrutiny, and wanted to step forward with a bad face, but noticed that the patrolling navy still left angrily, but still gave Rosindi a malicious look. Rosindi didn't care. He wasn't 17, he was 18. The navy is very common here. After all, because of One Piece, there are many pirates in the town, which also leads to an increase in the navy's manpower, and there are also many bounty hunters in the town. Rosindi thinks this is a good place. At least he doesn't have to worry about running out of money, just like the person who threatened him with his eyes just now. if the other party is a pirate and has a bounty, Rosindi doesn't mind taking him first. To Luoxindi's surprise, there was a shop with a large area in the bustling town of Rog, and it was naturally very lively inside. It sold a variety of things, but most of them were women's and children's supplies. These are some specialties and souvenirs of Rog Town. What surprised Rosindi the most was that one of the store's logos belonged to the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, which meant it was under the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. Luoxindi didn't expect to meet her own business here, so she decided to visit her privately as a WeChat server to see how her business is doing. It's just that when Luoxindi was in a daze, because he was standing at the door, he accidentally blocked someone and collided with someone. It's just that before Luoxindi came forward to apologize, the other party rushed into the shop. Rosindi didn't care, but the other party was a man, but he walked straight into the store. At this time, Luoxindi also found that there seemed to be many men entering the store. Rosindi went in curiously. Obviously, there is a place in the store surrounded by a group of men, which is too conspicuous compared to the surrounding women. And many of these men were wearing navy uniforms, and many of them were wearing swords. The man who collided with Rosindi before was also among them, because the other party's middle baldness was a bit serious, and it was a bit conspicuous in the crowd. After finally pushing forward, Rosindi realized that what these people were watching was a knife, and Luoxindi asked the bald man just now, "What's so good about this knife?" The other party was a little disdainful when he saw Rosindi's business. "You don't know how to do it at first glance. This is Huazhou, one of the 50 good knives." The other party looked at the knife on the knife rest, his eyes were full of liking, and he said to himself, "I heard it just now, and I thought it was a fake, but I didn't expect it to be a real one." The people around the knife looked at the knife full of longing. Some of them are swordsmen. For a well-known knife, it is like seeing a beautiful woman, and they can't wait to pounce on it. Rosindi heard that it was a good sharp knife, and muttered in a low voice, "Isn't it just a good sharp knife?" But his words and deeds were met with cold eyes from the crowd, which made Rosindi feel a little cold in his heart. "Boy, you may not know how valuable this knife is." "That's right, she's quite a braggart." Although Rosindi wanted to refute it, he still kept his mouth shut. He was afraid of being scolded for telling the truth. After all, if he remembered correctly, he seemed to have one. It was one of the many gifts Adri sent on his birthday. 1. But Luoxindi was not interested in knives, so he put the knife in a place to eat ashes. If these people who love knives as much as their lives hear about this, they will definitely go crazy and come to Rocinante to avenge the knife, complain about the knife, and spit on Rocinante at the same time, calling him a waste. Although everyone looked at the knife with wolfish eyes, they all stopped temporarily because of the sign in front of the knife. This knife is not yet for sale. It is first used as an ornamental to attract enough people, and maybe it will be sold later. However, 50 labors for a good and fast knife is not something ordinary people can afford. So many people come here have a good time, including the bald man, Ippon Matsu. His family owns a weapon shop, and the family heirloom is a good sharp knife. 50 workers. To see another one today is an eye-opener. After all, in such a big world, there are only a few. As for why it is here, there are no pirates to snatch it. Rosindi also found out. It is very simple, because the last one who overreached and caused trouble was a pirate with a bounty of 2,000 million Baileys. I can't get along in the new world anymore. I came to Donghai to become the overlord of the mountain, and then I fell in love with the things in this store by coincidence. In the end, grave mounds are all tall now. 2,000 million Pele is nothing to the outside world, but it is one of the best in the East China Sea. After leaving the weapons store, Luoxindi found that there was nothing to see. He wanted to take a picture of Huazhou as a souvenir, but the clerk stopped him and pointed to a slogan very politely in "No photographing." Rocinante kicked stones on the street, expressing his embarrassment, thinking of returning to the port immediately, going to sea, and going to other places immediately. But he has no money, and now he can only find some bounty criminals first. However, he seemed to remember that Uncle Garpu was born in Donghai, North Sea. "Young master, come to eat." The petite baby 5 knocked on the door, and then entered the room. Baby 5 was wearing a maid outfit with a bow on her head, which was dressed up by Yora. She seemed to have integrated into it during this time. Doflamingo, who was lying on the chair, glanced at the silly baby 5 and just nodded, then got up, put a pink feather coat on his body, and then went to the restaurant. After taking his seat, Doflamingo habitually picked up the newspapers. Because of business reasons, he has a lot of newspapers from all over the place, which is convenient for him to understand the information. Doflamingo was holding a spoon in one hand and a newspaper in the other. When he scooped up a spoonful of soup and put it into his mouth, he suddenly couldn't swallow it any longer. He stared at the newspaper, looking down. Suddenly all the soup in his mouth was spurted out, and he almost choked on it, which caused him to cough. Everyone in the Don Quixote family got up immediately when they saw Doflamingo's reaction. The usual Doflamingo was definitely not like this. They rushed to Doflamingo's body immediately, thinking that Doflamingo brother Ming was poisoned. But Doflamingo waved his hand to indicate that it was okay, took the towel handed by baby 5 and wiped the corner of his mouth, and ordered others to clean the table. "Young master," I said, "what's wrong with you? You're so excited all of a sudden." Toribol stepped forward to care. Pika also stepped forward and asked, "My lord, is there something wrong?" Doflamingo shook his head one by one, but fixed his eyes on one part of the newspaper, and the surrounding Virgo, Toribol, Pika and Diamanti also followed Doflamingo's sight transferred, but the newspaper was quickly closed by Doflamingo, and they didn't see it clearly. Although they didn't see it clearly, they also had guesses in their hearts, and the expressions on their faces immediately became weird. Doflamingo gestured. "Forget everything that happened today." Everyone nodded, and Doflamingo returned to his room with the newspaper in his hand, took out his mobile phone, and dialed the number. The phone can only be used by two people, Rosindi and Adri. The phone on the other side hadn't been answered yet, and Doflamingo looked at the newspaper tightly in his hand with a solemn expression. In an extremely inconspicuous place in this newspaper, there is a piece of news: a young man saves a missing girl. There is also a picture on the news, which is the hero and heroine of the news. Obviously, this photo is a snapshot, but it can be seen that the woman is hugging the man. But the man's face is very familiar to Doflamingo. "Adri." The phone was connected, and Adri's voice came from over there. "Hey, Dover, what's the matter? Seek investment request collection." End of this chapter. Chapter 30 Participating in the Navy. Chapter 30 Participating in the Navy, Recommendation Ticket plus more. "What's wrong, Dover?" Adri's unscrupulous voice came, but Doflamingo's forehead was exposed, because there was an obvious girl's voice on the other end of the phone. Doflamingo smiled sullenly, and said in a strange way, "I just want to remind a certain middle-aged uncle who already has 2 grown sons to pay attention." The other end of the phone was silent for a moment, only to hear something that seemed to fall heavily to the ground on the other side, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. Doflamingo smiled triumphantly, but in fact the opposite party was completely different from what Tata thought. "Let me say, Dover, if you don't want to have an extra 20-year-old stepmother, you'd better pay attention." "Really? I'm not like someone who is a hero who saves the beauty and hugs her back." Doflamingo's tone was full of ridicule, and he felt that he had grasped the handle of the knife. "Did you see it?" Adrian on the opposite side was a little surprised, and then added, "I'm in the South China Sea." "You are in the newspaper, my dear father." Adri, who was vacationing on a tropical island in the South China Sea, was so frightened by Doflamingo's tone that he almost couldn't swallow the orange juice in his mouth. "It's even published in the newspaper." "Wait a minute, Dover, listen to my explanation. The other party did it first." "Really, the photo of someone holding you is a real hammer." Adri's voice immediately sank. "Dover, you are still young and don't understand the dangers of this world. Let me explain to you carefully." In the end, under Adri's good words, Doflamingo understood the whole story. "So, didn't you find me a stepmother who just grew up?" "Of course not. In fact, Adri was really forced." Who would have thought that Hajuanduan was walking on the road, and a girl ran up to her, jumped up and hugged Adri, and behind her was a bunch of menacing men chasing her. Seeing Adri retreated immediately. Then the girl hugged Adri to express her gratitude, and even attracted everyone around her. Coincidentally, even a photographer and a news editor who couldn't find the news were also present. It was only later that Adrian learned that the other party was just a girl who hated to marry, and it was his brother who chased him before, because his brother was too vicious, so he couldn't get married, so he had to persuade his brother to act in such a show. Adri happened to be the target of the girl's eyes from the beginning. Although the whole process is very fantasy, but people have to believe that Adri was touched. But in the end, Adri successfully matched the girl to the local branch executive of Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. Dover, you still have time to pay more attention to Ross Indy. That bastard wanted to rob his Chamber of Commerce last time. Oh, it's not because you were busy going out to play and threw him out in a hurry. As an older brother, just take care of your younger brother a little bit. Doflamingo hung up the phone before Adri finished speaking. After all, he is in a bad mood now. Adri said before that he was asked to go back once a year, which was a complete scam. After Doflamingo set off, Adri went out on vacation in a hurry. And the so-called going back once a year is to help Adri to sign some important documents. Doflamingo Jiang threw the newspaper on the ground and ignored it. Little devil, it's not good to eavesdrop outside the door. The door opened quietly. It was Baby 5. Young master, I happen to be passing by too. Baby 5 said with an innocent face. Young master, I'm here to tell you that you can continue to eat after packing up. By the way, young master, who are you talking to? Doflamingo raised his mouth and said. No one, with an old bastard. Doflamingo walked out of the room. Baby 5 hurriedly followed, and murmured. Old bastard? The other sighed. Ross Indy, who had been complained about before, seemed not to be going well. He had just left Rog Town in a small boat when he was almost hit by a big boat. Ross Indy could only jump onto the opponent's boat, and planned to teach the opponent a lesson. By the way, why didn't he have eyes? As soon as I got on the warship, I was surrounded by a group of people in uniform, sloppy. Ross Indy glanced at the people around him, and then at the flag. Ross Indy, who understood in an instant, immediately had a flash of inspiration. This is a naval warship. Looking at the tense navy around him, Rocinante quickly explained. Wait a minute. My boat just now was submerged by the waves you set off, hey. But it was obvious that the other party didn't believe it at all, and still didn't let down their vigilance and looked at Ross Indy. At this time, Rosin Indy looked at the people who came out of the warship, and immediately called out to grab straws, Uncle Garp. The other party obviously noticed the movement here, and the soldiers on the side reported to him. Report to Lieutenant General Karp. This person appeared suddenly. Well, let me take a look. Ross Indy desperately waved his hands. Uncle Garp, it's me. Garp picked his nostrils and asked with a serious face. You boy, who is it? Ha! Rosinante immediately lifted up her hair and pointed at herself. It's me. It's me. The surrounding soldiers also asked Garp. Master Lieutenant General, do you know him? Garp continued to pick his nostrils, as if trying to think. I don't know. You are the guy who sold me Senbei before. No. I'm Ross Indy. My father is Adri. Oh, you're Ross Indy. Garp pretended to be enlightened, jumped over the siege, and directly put on Ross Indy's shoulder. Your boy is the boy Adri said before that he wanted to be a pirate. Garp picked up the booger sticking to his fingers, and looked at Ross Indy seriously. No. That's my brother. Huh? Really? I don't remember. Anyway, I remember that a certain kid from Adrian's family was going to be a pirate and asked me to discipline him. If that's the case, you should become a navy. Garp couldn't help but grab dragging Ross Indy's collar into the warship. He also ordered the surrounding navy, you don't need to be nervous. This is the child of the old man's best friend's family, and he came to be a navy. And Ross Indy, who was completely unable to break free from being pulled, was still defending. Wait a minute. I just came out to play. Let go of me. I haven't gone to the Shanghai restaurant to enjoy the delicious food yet. Okay, boy, if you are a boy, you are too sorry for yourself if you don't become a navy. Let me train you well and become an admiral of the navy. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, Garp left Ross Indy on the warship and took him all the way back to the Navy headquarters. When Sengoku, who was sitting at the naval headquarters, saw Ross Indy being dragged all the way here. Karp, please explain. Hello, Uncle Warring States. Rosindi on the ground stretched out his hand to greet Zhangguo with difficulty. Lord Kapu naturally sat in the Admiral's office and ate Rizenbei. The boy I met on the way was the son of the Adri family. Of course I know it belongs to Adri's family. I'm asking you, why did you bring him back? It's like this. I just trained this kid, but I didn't expect this kid to be quite talented. Garp was still eating the sunbae with relish. The crane that came after I heard the news also rushed over. And he, long time no see. Isn't this Rosindi? Long time no see, you were kidnapped by Garp to the Navy? What you said, Rosindi just wants to join the Navy. Garp complained dissatisfiedly from the side. Rosindi also slowed down at this time. And come and explain, it was my brother who said he wanted to be a pirate, not me. Luo Shinti said that his favorite is the crane, and it is also because the crane is more rational. Carp, Rosindi is really not. That's it, it seems that I caught the wrong one. Carp laughed and held his head, saying sorry. And Luo Shinti was a little bit broken, and came here all the way from the East China Sea. Hell, he was just traveling. Hey, Warring States also quickly greeted Rosindi to sit down. Little guy, how did you meet Garp? I just ran into him halfway when I was traveling in the East China Sea. Well, that's really Garp's fault, isn't it? Why do you think of traveling, kid? Rosindi spread his hands helplessly. Father ran away for vacation, so I can only come out to play. Well, how is Adriatic recently? My father is in good health. I talked to him not long ago. He said he was on vacation in the South China Sea. Adrian really enjoys it. Carp complained, because it had been a long time since Adri had sent him a premium senbei. Zhang Gui on the side also nodded in agreement. The ghost knows how sad he is as a marshal, and Adri is actually on vacation and doesn't come to see him. He just quietly looked at the two elders in front of her. Based on her understanding of these two men, what were they thinking and not knowing? Crane turned to look at Rosindi. What are your plans next? Do you need me to ask someone to send you back? No need, and I decided to have a meal here first. In fact, I plan to travel for a few more months to join the army. Really, then it's not bad for you to join the army now. That's right, boy Rossi, you've come here anyway, so why not become a navy now? That's a good idea. The bastard Adrian quit halfway. You can make up for his regret. Warring States and Carp said you and me, it is already obvious, I am looking forward to Rosindi's coming to the Navy, and Crane also agrees, after all, he is a child of the Adri family, so it will not be too bad. And Rosindi accepted it very politely, and joined the army successfully, but it was a little earlier and the process was a little more difficult. But what Rosindi didn't have the nerve to say was that what he saw was the unlimited food provided by the Navy. Of course, this proportion is not the point. Maybe. Seek investment, end of this chapter. Chapter 31 Meet a Few Little Guys. Chapter 31 Meet a Few Little Guys, recommendation ticket plus update. Some guy on vacation didn't know that Rosindi joined the Navy. Adri walked alone on a small island in the South China Sea. There is only one town here. Although it is not small, it is not big. Developed. Adri isn't playing all the time, he also occasionally goes back to check on the business situation of his own Chamber of Commerce, because this small island is contracted by the Bexinghai Chamber of Commerce, in other words, it is a monopoly. Monopoly business is good, and few people can resist the temptation in this regard. Adri has always wanted to go to O'Hara to see, but there are only remains, and the Navy will not allow it. Adri still hopes to collect more books to enrich his library. Adri was walking, and more people came around, because there were merchant ships approaching to supply gifts. Most of these people were porters. The food in the whole town was consolidated and sold to the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. Finally, according to the 2 orders of each family penny. And those who have strong men at home will work as porters to earn more bailies. There are very few people like Adri who come to the town to travel, but they are not extinct. There are many immigrants in the town, and Adri relies on the particularity of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. The Shanghai Chamber of Commerce not only has merchant ships, but is also unique in the tourism industry. Most people will choose Shanghai for manships, because in this place where pirates are rampant, in terms of security, such as escorts, the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce makes people feel at ease. Adri boarded this ship and headed for his next stop, Batharia Island. There was a big cleansing there, and it is said that the blood of One Piece was left there. During that time, the island was full of mourning and crying, and many pregnant women died because of this. In order to find the successor of One Piece, they were strangled in the cradle. Now the island of Batharia has returned to its former calm. The actions of the Navy kept them silent. In a real sense, only the pregnant women and their families were traumatized during that time. Adri actually didn't care. He went there just as a check-in point, the birthplace of the future Fire Fist Ace. Adri was hanging out on the deck, but somewhere in the corner of the ship he spotted a little guy. It has to be said that this child is familiar to Adri, but Fong Fong looks only 4 or 5 years old, but with red hair and prickly hair, the other party looks fierce. His body was dirty, his clothes were full of holes and patches, but his face was still unruly. He noticed Adri's gaze and stared back fiercely, as if warning. What to look at, believe it or not, I will kill you. He still had a wrench in his hand. Adri looked at the fierceness of the other party, but he didn't care. After all, in this regard, he had never seen anyone who was more fierce than his own Dover. Adri then walked away silently, without even looking at the red-haired hedgehog. Adri wanted to rest first. After browsing the next destination, he decided to find a place to rest for a while. As soon as he returned to the room, Adri's cell phone rang. It was Doflamingo. Doflamingo is very busy, and he almost never takes the initiative to call him, an empty nester. Mossy, Dover? It's me, Adrian. I was recently targeted by the Navy. That's it, congratulations. Thank you. You're welcome. Have you been offered a reward? How much? How about your side? How is the development going? Not yet. It's just that the basic framework on my side is already being built. Don't you worry? I'm being targeted by the Navy. For some reason, Doflamingo's voice was a little gloating, as if he was looking forward to Adri's reaction. There's nothing to worry about, as long as you don't die. I don't know your strength yet? If you're bored, would you like me to ask someone from Mahi to send you from the headquarters? Adri's casual voice doesn't seem to have any worries. Phew, forget it, I'm not ready yet. Doflamingo didn't have any surprises about Adri's reply. It's better to say that this is reasonable. Adrian didn't even care about his identity as a Tianlongren, let alone let him meet the Admiral of the Navy, the General Staff of the Navy, and the hero of the Navy in his early years. According to Adrian, it is fine to let Doflamingo make trouble as he pleases, as long as he is fine. Anyway, he will be arrested as Doflamingo. Hey, Adri, I'm going to make a deal with you. Doflamingo's voice suddenly dropped. Really? That's up to you, but if you do this, it's a bit dangerous. Do you need me to ask no? To accompany you? No, this is my decision, and it is also for my future plans. That's up to you, but it's still the same sentence, don't die. Phew, don't worry, the secrets I know won't let them kill them all. It's good if you can be clear, pay attention to safety. Adri then hung up the phone, recalling what Doflamingo said just now, thinking, the world government is not so easy to talk to. If the world government made his son feel bad, then he made the world government feel bad. Adri's gaze then became dangerous. On the other side, Doflamingo hung up the phone with a rare smile on his face. After all, on weekdays, Doflamingo's smile is either arrogant or beating. 1 month later. Dodal Islands in the South Sea. Although it is an archipelago, it covers a large area, and there are bridges connecting each island. However, due to the relatively cold weather in the area, the construction of the bridges is a bit difficult. The people of the Dodal Islands mainly eat meat. Because of the climate, the price of rice here is extremely expensive. Only the rich can have rice or bread every meal. It has also naturally become the main import place of cereal grains. Adri was on his way home with a basket of fresh ingredients. He was wearing a heavy suit jacket and a scarf around his neck. He noticed that there was a navy nearby, as if he was searching for something, but what did all this have to do with him? Adri just needs to go back to his warm hut, not to mention, sitting by the warm fireplace drinking hot coffee, looking at the book in hand, and occasionally admiring the snow scene outside the window. This feeling is unique. And when Adri was about to get home, a group of small black shadows ran in the white snow, and soon lay down in the snow and couldn't get up. Adri was aroused and went to check. He saw a little girl covered in injuries hiding there. Seeing Adri approaching, she immediately wanted to get up and run away. The little girl was wearing very little clothes, and accidentally fell when she got up, and she was so painful that she couldn't get up on the ground. Adri stepped forward and found that the opponent had many frostbite marks on his body, and because he fell too hard just now, the snow was stained red. But the little girl desperately tried to get up and run away. Adri pulled the other side. You fell, don't move around. I saw Adri first took off his coat and wanted to wrap the little girl up, but the other party was too guarded, so he had to hand it to the other party hastily. The little girl tremblingly wrapped her clothes around herself, her red nose trembling. Adri then took out his silk scarf. Don't move around, I will simply bandage your wound first. The little girl nodded obediently, and watched Adri slowly bandage her wound with a silk scarf. For a moment, her heart was full of entanglements, whether she should trust others or not. The kind old lady called the navy after seeing that she had won the bounty, but now, what will happen to this one? Little guy, your wound still needs to be treated. Let me take you to my house for treatment? Adri asked solicitingly, like this will appear under the ice and snow. If you ask people's parents or family, it will be a bit idle. The little girl who stayed on the ground hesitated for a moment, but nodded anyway. In her opinion, it would be a big deal to run away again, so as to deal with her wounds. Then Adri picked up the little guy wrapped in his coat with one hand, and walked home with a basket in one hand. There are some differences in the local timelines in different chapters, and there will be more later. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. End of this chapter. Chapter 32 The Navy Visits. Chapter 32 The Navy Visits, Recommendation Ticket plus more. Adri carried the little girl back to her home villa. To the little girl's surprise, it was much bigger than she had imagined. As soon as she entered, a maid came to pick up the basket in Adri's hand. The man who carried her home could be seen very rich. The other party shouldn't want his bounty, right? But who can tell? Adri carried the little girl directly to his fireplace, and ordered the maid to prepare hot cocoa, food, and medicine for frostbite. Little guy, what's your name? My name is Robin. Well, it's better for the little girl not to run around outside, and it's such a cold day. Robin could only nod his head. Under the light of the fire, Robin's long black hair looked very beautiful. Adri hugged Robin onto the sofa and covered him with a comfortable and warm blanket. Robin curled up, and the warmth was really amazing. At this time the maid came in and handed it to Adri. Adri, half kneeling on the ground, let Robin expose the frostbitten parts and the knee injury. Robin endured the pain and waited for Adri to apply the medicine for her before he said softly, "Thank you." Adrian smiles back. "Fine." Then the maid brought steaming cocoa and biscuits. Robin looked at the delicious food exuding fragrance, and kept looking at Adri with uncertain eyes. "Can I really eat this?" "Of course, eat it quickly, so that your body will heat up faster." After getting an affirmative answer, Robin couldn't help it anymore, and reached out to grab the biscuit. Regardless of the warmth of the biscuit, stuffed it into his mouth and started to chew, and swallowed eagerly and was choked. Robin could only hurry going to get the hot cocoa, but retracted by the scalding glass walls. Adri stepped forward, patted Robin on the back, then took out a spoon, blew on the hot cocoa, and then handed it to Robin. "Eat slowly, no one will rob you." Robin also patted her chest and drank the hot cocoa that Adrian fed. Robin's face turned rosy after feeling relieved, and the rumbling of her stomach made her feel a little embarrassed. "It looks like I've been hungry for a long time, let's eat a few more pieces." Robin picked up a biscuit again. This time he didn't remember to stuff it into his mouth, but began to bite the biscuit in small bites. The rich aroma made Robin sink a little bit, and with a mouthful of hot cocoa, it was absolutely delicious. A happy smile appeared on Robin's face, and soon Robin ate up a plate of biscuits and hot cocoa. Robin couldn't help licking his lips. "Thank you for treating me to these delicacies." Robin was very polite, but his expression darkened again as if thinking of something. "What's the matter, Miss Robin? If you have something on your mind, you can tell me." Adri sat on the sofa opposite Robin, drinking the coffee brought by the maid. Robin shook his head and said it was okay. Adri is not reluctant. "You must be tired. I've already asked someone to clean up a room. You can sleep here first. Let's talk about something tomorrow and take a good rest." Then Robin followed Adri to the room. Surprisingly, the decoration of the room was unexpectedly good. "Sir, do you have any children?" Robin asked cautiously. Being able to arrange it like this can be said to have captured the child's heart. "Yes, I have 2 sons, but they are both adults and have gone out to make a living." "I can't see it," Robin murmured softly. "What's the matter, Miss Robin?" That, sir." Robin clutched his clothes tightly. "You can just call me Adri." "Okay, Mr. Adri. Although it is very presumptuous, please ask if you can keep me here as a helper. I can watch a lot of work. Please." Adrian was a little surprised. "I will think about this matter carefully. Now you go to sleep. I asked the maid to get a clean pajamas. You can go to sleep after changing." "Okay, thank you, Mr. Ardley." The door was closed, but Robin couldn't fall asleep. He could only keep rolling on the bed. It was like a dream, and suddenly he was able to sleep in such a good bed. Robin was still a little worried and didn't know what to do, but she found a small bookshelf in the room with a few books on it. With bare feet, Robin walked to the bookcase, took out a book, and started flipping through it to pass the time. Soon Robin fell into it. This book is about interesting stories. There are rare and strange beasts that have appeared in history, including sea beasts with cat heads but fish tails, and lanternfishes as big as small islands. Robin just stayed by the bookshelf. Suddenly, a fire flashed outside. Robin was lying on the window, and the navy could be vaguely seen. Robin's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Downstairs, there was a fierce knock on the door, and the maid went to open the door, and saw the navy in a coat. "Mr. Navy, what can I do?" "We are here to hunt down fugitives. Someone reported that the crime is nearby." "Then please wait a moment, I need to invite our master to come over this matter." The maid then turned away and came back again, with Adri among them. "Excuse me, are you going to search my house?" Adri asked kindly. "No, we just wanted to make sure." The navy displayed a wanted warrant in front of Adri. The bounty on the reward order was 7,900 million Baileys, and the person on the reward order was a 6 or 7-year-old girl. How did this little girl have such a high bounty? Don't underestimate the other party. The other party is an extremely dangerous person who has destroyed 6 naval warships. Really? But sorry, we haven't met. Adrian replied calmly, and the maid behind her just kept her head down. The face of the navy on the opposite side began to deteriorate. "Sir, we have evidence that you brought the fugitive back home." Several soldiers behind the navy have shown their weapons. "Sir, I hope you'll think about it." The navy looked at Adri with his hands behind his back proudly. "Oh, you are so rude." Then Adri shouted in a certain direction. "Miss Robin, please don't peek at the next picture. And now the children have to sleep well, and leave the rest to me." Robin, who was being yelled at, was startled, surprised by Adri's feelings. At this time, Robin wanted to run away when he saw the navy. After all, Adri treated her very well. Robin was very grateful to hear Adri's negation when using her ability at the beginning, but later the navy wanted to force her way in, which made Robin worry, and she was hesitating whether to help. But Robin was very worried because of Adri's instructions. The other party was the navy. After a short period of psychological struggle, Robin chose to take a look at the situation. Robin started to activate the flowery fruit ability, and his eyes and ears appeared on the tree outside the door. And it was this move that allowed her to see the last scene of the clamoring navy. Adri simply stretched out his hand, and in the next moment, the navy turned into ashes, before he even had time to scream. Robin was taken aback and quickly cancelled his ability. And Adri looked at the tree outside the door and whispered, it's really disobedient. Request collection ask for comment. End of this chapter. Chapter 33 Chapter Family. Chapter 33 At this time, Adri came to Robin's room. Robin froze in place, unable to figure out how Adri made the Navy disappear. Adri stepped forward and stretched out his hand. Robin instinctively wanted to hide, and closed his eyes tightly. But instead of being wiped out like she had imagined, what she got instead was Adrian stroking her hair. A gentle big hand stroked Robin's head, and Robin looked at Adrian suspiciously. Adri just bent down and said softly, "The child is going to sleep this time." Robin saw that Adri turned around and was about to leave, so he hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed Adri's sleeve. "Mr. Adri, can you stay with me? I can't sleep a little bit." "Well, since we can't sleep, let's chat." Robin has decided to confess his identity to Adri, but when talking about his mother, tears flowed uncontrollably. Adrian could only hand over the handkerchief and listen quietly. Soon, the crying stopped, and Robin had already fallen asleep. It seemed that he was really tired. He didn't know how such a child survived the days of being hunted by the Navy these days. Adri covered Robin with the quilt, then turned and left. The next morning, Robin woke up from his sleep. This time he didn't dream about the O'Hara fire. This time in the dream it was so sweet that Robin didn't want to wake up. Robin went downstairs to find Adri, who was drinking coffee and reading the newspaper at the kitchen table. "Mr. Adri, would you like to take me in to work here?" Robin asked cautiously. After all, this is a wanted criminal that the entire Navy is offering rewards for. "Of course, Robin, in fact, you don't have to work." "That can't be done. I'm already very grateful for letting you take me in." "Well, Robin, although it's a bit presumptuous, are you willing to be my daughter?" "I don't have a daughter." "Be your daughter." Robin, this is completely different from what Robin thought. Since she was a child, she has no impression of her father, only her mother, and now even her mother is gone. Sure enough, it's still too presumptuous. "Please forgive my mistake." "No, you don't need it. You also know my background." Robin waved quickly. "Actually, Robin, my other two sons are also adopted, and their backgrounds are not much better than yours." Adrian's eyes were a little slack. "Mr. Ardley, I'm sorry." "You don't have to be sorry, Robin." "So, Robin, would you like to be my family, my daughter?" Robin seemed a little hesitant. Obviously he would have a warm home soon, but Robin was just not sure. Did Adri really understand his own burden? Robin finally took a deep breath and said aloud, "Mr. Ardley, I will." "Still calling me Mr. Ardley?" Odo sang. Robin simply threw himself on Adri, and then raised his head. "Can I do this?" "Of course, my dear daughter. It's all right to be petty in front of me." Adri hugged Robin, and Robin buried his head in Adri's arms. It was so warm. Is this how a father feels? Adri then sat Robin on his lap and called the maid. A row of maids bowed to the two in unison. "Master, good day, Missy, good day." Robin half hugged Adri, mainly because she really hadn't seen this battle. In fact, if Doflamingo and Rosindi were here, they would find that the head maid standing in the front was the familiar Diana with glasses and serious face. Diana is the head maid who is in charge of their daily life, and she is also a rare big maid on Adrian's side. Every time Doflamingo and Rosindi had problems, it was basically Diana who resolved them. At this time, Diana was still the same as she was decades ago, and her appearance hadn't changed at all. "Since Robin can't stay here in the South China Sea, let's go back." The maids all bowed their heads and said, "I understand." Only Robin tilted his head. "This is not home?" 1 month later. After a dedicated transfer by a private luxury yacht, Robin fell into deep thought again. In front of Robin now is a splendid castle-like home. "Father, is this home?" "Which floor?" "Well, I know." Robin looked a little short under the huge building, and Robin held Adri's clothes helplessly. The door was pushed open by the attendants, and the magnificent hall was filled with servants and maids lined up on both sides of the aisle to welcome. "Congratulations, master and eldest lady." Robin was a little frightened by the situation, and Diana immediately dismissed everyone to do her own work. Robin whispered, "Father, what on earth do you do?" Me? Didn't I say that I'm a businessman? Robin didn't believe it. After all, he could tell on the way here that this castle occupied more than half of the island. To be honest, Robin believed that this island belonged to Adri. Robin, my business is actually good. If you are interested, I can show you. At this time, a professional woman in a white shirt and gray trousers came, holding a stack of documents in her hand, and helped her glasses that had fallen a bit with the other hand. Boss, if you don't come, I may plan to resign. Oh, Petra, your year-end bonus can be doubled this year, and, now, I allow you to recruit some people to help you. Adrian responded easily. Petra also looked a little better, then adjusted her mood, looked at Robin who was hiding behind Adri, and said hello. Hello, miss, I'm Petra, the boss's personal secretary. Hello. Robin's eyes focused on the protruding and backward parts of Petra's body. I have to say that Petra's figure is really good, which made Robin feel a little embarrassed. Looking at Robin's red face, Petra smiled happily, and then looked at Adri with a straight face. Boss, I'm going to the office first, I hope you can come to sign the document later. Petra then turned and left. Okay, Robin, let me show you your room first, Diana. Yes, my lord, please follow me. Soon they came to a room, and Diana opened the door. The main color of the whole room is purple-black, with some pink suitable for girls. Although it looks a bit playful, it looks dignified, elegant, noble and cool, which makes the whole room full of literary and artistic atmosphere, especially the one that occupies a large place. Big bookshelf. The bookshelves are full of books. Beside the floor-to-ceiling windows, there is a set of tables and chairs, and there is a vase with flowers on the round table. Purple bows are all over the edge of the bed, and dark purple satin hangs smoothly from top to bottom. The comfortable and soft big bed also looks very visually pleasing. How is it? Do you like it? Like. As Robin said, she flew onto the bed, buried her head on the pillow, and took a deep breath. The fragrance on the pillow made her feel refreshed. Okay, little guy, I'm going to work. Why don't you go to the library and have a look? You might be interested in the books in it. Okay. I'm going. Robin jumped up and was about to rush out, but Adri caught him in time. Wait and ask Diana to take you there, I'll go to work first. Adri hugged Robin and told her. So let Diana take you to the restaurant when the time comes, and we'll meet for lunch. Okay, see you at lunch, goodbye, father. Robin, who was put down by Adrian, followed Diana and left. Adri then went to his office. Petra had been waiting for a long time, standing on the side of the desk. Wouldn't it be nice to raise Robin as a daughter? End of this chapter. Chapter 34 Rosindi and Ab, #039, S Naval Life. Chapter 34 Rosindi's Naval Life. Rosindi, work harder, aren't you breastfeeding? Facing Garp's iron fist, Rosindi expressed his helplessness. He trained like the recruits from the beginning, but there were still a group of elders who wanted to teach him. Rosindi blocked it with difficulty, using an unskilled iron block. Boom! Rosindi flew far away. The iron block is just a fart. Why is it completely useless? At this time, Luoshindi wanted to hit someone, and finally learned the iron block in the 6th naval style, but it was useless in front of Garp. It's almost there, Garp, Rosindi has to train tomorrow. Crane spoke for Rosindi. Well, the old man will spare you today. Rosindi got up from the ground, feeling unlucky, and sure enough, he had to eat all of it when it was time for dinner. But what worries Rosindi the most is that he has not told his father about his going to the Navy. Luoshidi just called every once in a while to report his safety, but he rarely contacted his brother, mainly because he knew that his brother had successfully become a pirate, and Luoshidi didn't know what to do. Rosindi didn't want the next time he saw Dover to be in prison. Rosindi came to the cafeteria dragging his wound. Auntie, bring me a big curry rice. If you have vegetables, let me have cabbage. Hey, little Rossi is here, but Auntie has already been ready. Aunt Chef in the cafeteria handed it to Rosindin, and many other chefs also greeted Rosindin, and Rosindin responded one by one. Rosindi came to a seat next to a man wearing a Dalmatian's hat. Dalmesia, why are you wearing this hat while eating? Rosindi asked the fellow next to him, and kept stuffing food into his mouth. Rosindi, I am a Dalmatian fruit-capable person, of course I have to bring it with me, this will help me get used to the fruit better. Is that so? It's up to you? Rosindi spoke vaguely, without taking his eyes off the food on his plate. Rosindi, why are you always injured recently? I am going to training. Really, really hard work. Dalmatian shrugged his shoulders, continued to eat his meal, and took a hard bite. Sure enough, watching Rosindi's meal was delicious and delicious. Hey, Dalmatian, let's discuss something. Dalmatian turned his head speechlessly. Borrowing money again? Rosindi rubbed his hands. You know, my life is tight here. Rosindi is still very independent and self-disciplined, and has never asked his family for money since he came out to make a living. Oh, that's true of you. You didn't even give me the ones last time. Dalmatian skillfully took out a few Baileys and slapped them on the table. Rosindi immediately took it and stuffed it into the pocket of his trousers. Dalmatian, you have to trust me, when I want to go home one day, I will pay you back double. Rosindi said with a serious face. But Dalmatian didn't care at all, because Rosindi didn't say this once or twice. The people around Rosindi had borrowed money once, but everyone didn't think about going back. Because Rosindi is really likable on weekdays, and everyone is voluntary. Before Luoxindi borrowed money, the warring states were alarmed, and the warring states wanted to hand over money to Luoxindi in private, but Luoxindi refused all of them. Luoxindi felt that it was very good for him to come to the navy, and thanks to the care of he and others on weekdays, he could not accept this money. But also because of this, he and the others felt that Luoxindi was very sensible, but instead felt that a certain irresponsible father was really stingy. Someone who was victimized by wind reviews knew nothing about it. Dalmatian also advised Rosindi to sell the necklace that Ba had been wearing all the time, but was strongly resisted by Rosindi, claiming, "This is a family heirloom." But in Dalmatian's view, it's almost like a piece of plastic. If it wasn't for its good-looking style, it might not be sold. Dalmatian was worried for Rosindi, and life was not easy in Rosindi's situation. Not only Dalmatian, but the Warring States period also worried about Rosindi. In any case, the four early partners only had offspring with Adri and Carp, and the Warring States period naturally treated Rosindi as his nephew. Rosindi would occasionally come to the Warring States office with Carp to grab a meal. Carp would also like to recommend delicious sunbae to Rosindindi, but Rosindindi was a little reserved. It might be better to say that Carp brought him over. Carp is extremely unscrupulous, and has a special sofa. And Luoxindi came to see the sheep raised in the Warring States period, because lambs like to eat lettuce. Luoxindi occasionally brought some, touched the wool of the lamb, and weighed the lamb. There was even a time when I just came back from the Warring States period, and I heard Rosindi feeding the lamb, and I was very moved that the child was really caring, until I heard Rosindi muttering, "Little guy, eat more, so that you can grow more meat." Suck. Rosindi couldn't help taking a breath. At that time, the Warring States period couldn't hold back and threw Luoxindi out, and hurriedly comforted the lamb who could not understand human language but might be made into a roast lamb. At this point, Luoxindi has put up with his desire to eat whole sheep, and instead actively groomed the sheep during the Warring States period. At the beginning of the Warring States period, he was not at ease, but after a week of confirmation, it was confirmed that Rosindi had not had any thoughts, so he was relieved. Until one time when I came back from get off work, I found a lamb with a very refreshing shape. The next time the Warring States saw Rosindi, it was Rosindi who was trying to knit a sweater, made of wool. Luoxindi also gave the woolen sweater to Zhangguo on the spot, saying that it was a gift, and Zhangguo could only put on the tight-fitting wool sweater with tears in his eyes under Luoxindi's expectant gaze. But the Warring States also has an extra capital to show off to Adri. "Do you have the woolen sweater your son knitted himself?" Because of this, one time during the Warring States period, he returned to the Navy with dark circles under his eyes, but his face was still full of smiles. Some people even speculated that Marshal Warring States was injured because he went to arrest a tricky pirate, and the marshal who insisted on justice also showed a relieved smile because he upheld justice. So did Rosindi, and the days went by. But Rosindi knew that the real purpose of coming to the Navy was to gain enough strength and try to start his own justice. Rosindi also wants to uphold justice for the common people, and also wants to do good deeds as much as possible. Also in order to be able to solve problems for my father one day, so that I can help my father at that time. Rosindi thought so, and this has always inspired him. Rossi is so inspiring. Worthy of being a good son. End of this chapter. Chapter 35 Meet. Chapter 35 Meet. Robin looked calmly at the beautiful dresses in the closet. She feels that she has to wear these skirts without repeating them 365 days a year, and these are all hand-sewn by the maids and sisters, with original designs. Robin looked at Adrian helplessly. Father, are you trying to fill my closet? What's the matter, don't you like it? No, it's just too much. Robin has lived here for a while, so he has seen the situation at home. By the way, does little Robin like jewelry? Speaking of which, Adri called the maid to bring pieces of jewelry to display in front of Robin. Although I haven't reached the age of wearing jewelry, who would refuse to builing? Sparkling diamonds and jewelry? Father, I actually hope that you can give me a puppet. Robin is quite frugal. The reason why she doesn't need books is that she can't read all the books at home, and every book is extremely wonderful. Some documents are even very old and have great research value. Really, that's okay, I understand, and I'll bring it to you in due time. Also, don't use your ability to read books secretly these days. You still need to sleep well at night, so that you will be beautiful in the future. Adri bent down and reminded. Seeing Adri's serious appearance, Robin couldn't help laughing. The serious father is so funny. Then, next, I have to give you this first. Adrian took out a small box behind him, opened it, and it contained the bloody pendant. Adri took out the pendant and gave it to Robin. Robin picked up the pendant curiously, facing the sun, and observed curiously with his eyes. Father, what is this? Adri smiled and pulled a black pendant from his neck. This is your status symbol. I have it too. My children all have it. Really, so the two brothers also have the same? Of course. Robin put down the pendant carefully, and said happily. I love so much. As long as you like it. Adri stroked Robin's long black hair and smiled. Robin was still looking at the pendant. For some reason, the pendant always gave her a strange feeling, and the rope that tied the pendant was a little cold and very comfortable, so that people could subconsciously ignore that she was still wearing the pendant. Adrian was thinking about where to go. Should he just give the text of the history to Robin? Forget it, Robin should prefer the fun he found himself. Robin also came to his senses at this time, looked at Adri in a daze, and then asked a question that she had been puzzled. Father, why are you so nice to me? In fact, Robin had a little guess in her heart, but she wanted to hear Adri's answer. Me? I'm your father, of course I want to treat you well. And if I insist on saying it, it's because it happens to be you. That's it, then, Father. Robin's eyes suddenly became serious, and he looked at Adri solemnly. Even if Father wants to translate the main text of history, I can do it. Tears flashed in Robin's eyes, forcing put on a smile. Robin didn't know how much courage it took to say such words, because in her opinion, her only value might be this, and Adri's kindness made Robin sink a little. Robin also thought that even if his father was using him, it seemed good to keep cheating like this. Adri's eyes suddenly darkened, and he knelt down on one knee, holding Robin with both hands. Silly boy, my father didn't have any other purpose at all. Besides, my father is not interested in One Piece and the historical text. Adri paused. You have to believe me, even if you are an enemy of the whole world, Father can handle it, you believe me? Adri looked at Robin. Robin's tears were streaming down uncontrollably. She wanted to wipe it off, but it was a mess. She replied with a crying voice. Well, I believe it. Adri hurriedly took a piece of paper to wipe the tears on Robin's face, comforting. Okay, girls don't look good when they cry, why don't you smile more? Robin feigned anger clumsily and wanted to hit Adri, but then smiled again. I won't play with you anymore, Father is so bad. Robin turned his face away, pouted, and squinted at Adri. Adri looked at this posture. He could only hold Robin up and hold him high, and then he went up and asked. Are you happier, my little princess? Robin proudly replied. I just barely got through this time. Robin himself didn't know that he, who was originally relatively calm, would have this side. Robin has calmed down, and he looks a lot more relaxed. Father, what are the two brothers doing? As of today, Robin has never seen the two elder brothers who only appear in conversation. They are two bastards, don't worry about it, one is rebellious and the other is freedom. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to introduce you to your brother. Did Father never tell my brothers about my existence? Robin was a little disappointed. The main reason is that those bastards have grown up. As a father, it's not easy to interfere too much. Now I just want to raise my daughter well. Adri held his chin and said seriously. Robin was amused, but added. Father, I think I still need to meet my brothers, after all, they will be my brothers in the future, right? Well, that's right, I'm going to tell them now and ask them to come back. Okay. Robin is still looking forward to it, which means she will have two more family members. Talk about how it feels when your father suddenly says that you have an extra 10-year-old sister after 2 years of traveling abroad. Rocindi's first reaction was, when did his father do it? Doflamingo's first reaction is that Adri has a young romantic debt. With different emotions, the two brothers will come home. Early in the morning, a pink flamingo and a purple plush ball appeared in the port of Adri's island. The two brothers greeted each other briefly, and tacitly began to discuss the sudden extra sister. As soon as he stepped into the gate, he saw Adri standing there, and behind him was a slightly shy girl with black hair and black eyes. Doflamingo's eyes twitched at the sight of this feature. Unbeknownst to the others, Adrian had originally had black hair, although he now had blonde hair. Doflamingo went straight to the point and asked very calmly. Who? Luoshindi also had some guesses. He had to suspect that it was Aunt He's. Doflamingo can roughly confirm that they are relatives. Adri looked at the two with a little disgust. Like you, her name is Robin. You have to get along. Adri pushed Robin out and asked Robin to say hello to the two. And Robin was a little dazed. Why did the two elder brothers look so tall? Why did one elder brother have fierce eyes, while the other one was very gentle? Robin calmed down and greeted the two brothers. Hello, brothers, I'm Robin. Robin curtsied. Little Robin, hello, I'm Rosindi, and the other is my brother Doflamingo. Luoshindi was the first to say hello, and I have to say that her sister is very cute. On the other hand, Doflamingo was a little surprised when he got Adri's answer, and he kept looking at Robin, but he stopped thinking about it when he saw the pendant on Robin's neck. Dari sees the existence of her own daughter. And Robin was also keenly aware of Doflamingo's observation, and she also found the pendants on the necks of Rosindi and Doflamingo. But Robin is more curious about Doflamingo. It's strange that he wears a pair of glasses all the time, and Rosindi is more kind, which is very similar to Adri. Okay, let's go get ready, kids, it's rare for you to go home. Adri greeted naturally, and the two didn't talk nonsense, and followed Adri away. On the contrary, Doflamingo looked at Robin as if he remembered something, and was interrupted by Adri's kind eyes, and gave a warning, which aroused Doflamingo's dissatisfaction. Don't worry, I won't attack my sister. Doflamingo's words clearly recognized Robin. At the banquet, both Rocinante and Doflamingo put on suits, and even Robin put on a skirt, holding a strange cat puppet in his arms. Rosindi was the first to hand over the gift, and Doflamingo, as if competing, handed over too. Robin looked at the three gifts in his hand and could only say thank you stupidly. Adri looked at the friendly interaction of the children and expressed his relief. In his opinion, next, it is necessary to cultivate the feelings of these children a little bit, and then let them chat by themselves. Besides, it is also necessary for people to know that there is a young lady from the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. After staying for 2 nights, Rocinante and Doflamingo set off again. After all, they were very busy. This timeline, Rosindi has not yet joined the Navy. End of this chapter. Chapter 36 Rosindi and AMP, #039, S Naval Internship Mission. Chapter 36 Rocindi's Naval Internship Mission, Recommendation Ticket plus Update. Get ready, we're going to set sail. Yes. The uniform voice runs through the sky. Today is the departure day for the Naval Training Camp practice ship. A man with purple hair stood at the bow and looked at this group of recruits with satisfaction. He was a former admiral and the current instructor of the training camp, Black Wrist, Zifa. Although none of the students in these classes were too perverted, their strengths were very good in all aspects. That's why Zifa decided to start this year's internship ahead of schedule. Seeing this class of recruits, Zifa felt an indescribable joy in his heart, and it was a very gratifying thing to watch his students grow. At this time, Zifa's arms are healthy, but because of the loss of his wife, the wrinkles on his face have deepened a lot. And this time the internship task is still the same as usual, catching pirates and the like. But on the usual boat, the gloss method was not wasted, and it was fully used to train its own students, so that many students fell asleep after training at night. Rosindi happened not to be one of them. Looking at Dalmesia, who was sleeping beside him, Luoxindi could only helplessly support his forehead, and turned his head to look at the other person. The man had short silver hair and an unfriendly face. He was young but loved smoking cigars very much. The age of the opponent is only 17 years old, but the opponent is doing well in this training camp. Not for anything else, just because he is a natural fruit-capable person, the owner of the yin-yen fruit, under the guidance of Zifa, the admiral of the three fruits of the natural system, can be described as thunderous. Naturally, this child is also highly valued. His name is Smoker. But don't look at Smoker's appearance, but people are usually easy to get along with, but it also makes teacher Zifa a little headache, because Smoker is too maverick, always a reckless lone ranger, and violated the law several times. Zafar's order. Smoker noticed Rosindi's eyes and stepped forward. Smoker still has a good impression of this friendly colleague, except that he likes to borrow money. Because of Rosindi's age advantage, he always likes to take care of his junior navy like a big brother, so Smoker still likes to call him Brother Rossi on weekdays. Yo, Brother Rossi, why can't you fall asleep? Smoker offered a cigar, but Rockindi declined kindly. Smog, you can't fall asleep, maybe you just waited for no one to wake up, and secretly smoked cigars. Rossindi spoke out, causing Smoker's cheeks to turn red because of the exposure. Brother Rossi. Are you really? Do I look like this person? Okay, be careful. If you are caught by teacher Zifa, I can't persuade you. Don't think I'm afraid. Smoker put the cigar back very honestly with his hand. After Zifa's training, Smoker was still very convinced of the teacher, and he was naturally in awe. The main reason is that Mr. Zifa's armed color is too painful to beat people, and his smoke fruit is useless. A few days later, Zifa and his party came to a small island on the Great Route, but they did not act rashly, because their enemy was stationed there, and there was a gathering place of pirates, more precisely, the Walrus Pirates the Resident. It's just that the main force has left, leaving only some small soldiers. After confirming that the leader Walrus Billy, who caused the disaster recently, was not there, Zifa led the people to attack and easily captured the garrison. Now they need to sit on the sidelines and set traps for the returning pirates in advance. The recruits were busy starting the arrangement, and Zifa, as the instructor, was supervising and guiding, and by the way, he also brought out the reward order for Walrus Billy, offering a reward of 1,000,000 Baileys. There are many subordinates under the flag, and the number reaches 500 at the highest. At present, according to the captured captive hostages, Billy the Pirate has brought nearly 100 people here in total. With Zifa's help, it should be more than enough. A group of people just waited here, but to their surprise, the pirate who was supposed to arrive did not show up until the next morning. Only then did Zifa realize that something was wrong. There is not only one pirate ship coming from a distance, but 4. This means that Billy summoned all his men and rushed back. There are only 2 possibilities. 1, it was Billy's original plan. 2, when the arrest was made, someone had already tipped off the news. Zifa took a quick glance at the prisoners and found a man with a crooked mouth and a smile. Ha ha! The captain has brought his people back, you are finished. At this time, Zifa also regretted his carelessness. It was because he learned from this group of people that only about 100 people would come back, so Zifa decided to let the students ambush from here. If there are so many people, what is their current situation? It's a little dangerous. It would be fine if there was only Zifa alone, but there are many recruits here, so Zifa immediately issued an order to give me all back to the warship. The soldiers were carrying out the task, but many complained that the traps were all for nothing, but Zifa also let them know that fighting in the enemy's territory was impossible. Back on the warship, Zifa began to order his adjutant to ask for help from the nearby naval branch, but it was a pity that there were rebellions in the allied countries on the opposite side, and the manpower of the naval branch was loaned out. Zifa's complexion immediately turned bad, because it meant that they would either leave directly, or fight the pirates and persist until the branch sent someone. But the Old Navy had already figured out a strategy, and he began to order. Ready to fight. Yes. Even so, the naval warships fired shells while walking away from the pirate station, and started long-range attacks with the pirates first. And Zifa also picked up the cannonball and threw it directly at the ammunition room of one of the pirate ships, causing the pirate ship to sink in the sea in the fire. Zifa doesn't want the soldiers to lose the opportunity to exercise. As far as Zifa's ability is concerned, it is relatively easy, and it is precisely because of this that he needs to exercise his students' abilities. They are not built to fight at sea. But it was a pity that there were many people on the opposite side, and soon the largest pirate ship was close to them. Fight! Yes. And on the pirate ship, there also appeared a huge monster, a full 3 meters high, with scars all over his face, but his walrus-like fangs were surprisingly long, and the teeth were polished brightly. It looks extremely conspicuous and sharp. Enter Billy the Walrus. Behind him are 2 pirates of different heights with tens of millions of bounties on their hands. They were Billy's right and left hands. This time the walrus pirates spent a lot of money, and urgently recalled everyone to grab the warship. This may seem unreasonable, but it is also needed for better development. If they grab the warship, they can eat sheep in sheep's clothing, saving a lot of energy and manpower. Although this process is very dangerous, in the eyes of Billy, who has been in the limelight recently, he is not an easy guy, but obviously, he does not know that there is a former admiral in the opposite navy. If he knew, he might feel his teeth clogged even after drinking water. Zifa smiled and said, "This big guy belongs to me, and the rest are up to you." Yes. Old guy, who do you think you are? Walrus Billy looked very dissatisfied, and he rushed up to fuck Zifa. And the members of the walrus pirates also began to fight with the navy. The ones who received special attention were the right-hand men of the walrus pirates, Richard and Maury. One of them is a swordsman and the other is a gunner, and now they are surrounded by many navies. Surrounding them are naturally several outstanding people among the recruits, such as Dalmesia, Smoker, Tina, and others, who are capable of devil fruit. At this moment, the two-sided battle between the navy and the pirates started in full swing. There were many blood splattered in the fighting crowd, screaming and howling, one after another fell, including pirates and navy. Those who can come out, and those who can come out to serve in the navy, are prepared to bleed, or even die. These things are never child's play. Of course, Rosindi also knew that at this time he was using firearms to attack the enemy. Occasionally, a few people who were close to him would be knocked down by Rosindi. He is Adri's son. Embarrassing. What? But soon his attention was diverted, and a scream came. End of this chapter. Chapter 37 Dalmesia and Amp, #039, S injury. Chapter 37 Dalmesia's injury, recommendation ticket plus update. Walrus Billy fell to the ground with his teeth covered, blood all over his body, his fangs were broken, and he just fell in a pool of blood, rolling his eyes. Zifa, who came out of the smoke, patted the dust on his body and said, "Give me a quick fight." Yes. Zifa's words encouraged the navy, and each of them began to rush forward like a chicken blood. Seeing this situation, Richard and Maury felt chills in their hearts, and they had already thought of running away. Richard simply made a fake move to get rid of Smoker in front of him, and sprinted towards Rosindi. His target was Rosindi. There was no way anyone could make Rosindi look weaker than these thick guys. Richard just wanted to injure the other party first, and then make a surprise move to get the hostage. But the edge of Richard's sword did not fall on Rosindi's body. A figure stood in front of Rosindi, which was Dalmesia. At this moment, a bloody mouth suddenly appeared on Dalmesia's body. Maury also shot Dalmesia at this time. Because the place blocked by Dalmesia and Rosindi is the direction where they will go to the pirate ship. Morley threw off the navy around him and Richard kicked Dalmesia into the sea. Dalmesia. Rosindi jumped into the sea. A group of pirates, such as Richard and Maury, who successfully diverted their attention, also hurried back to the pirate ship and wanted to leave quickly. But Zifa obviously won't let them leave, his face is a bit gloomy. How dare you hurt this old man's student? Zifa's armed arrogance spread across his entire arm, and with a bang, the entire pirate ship was shattered into pieces. Go and rescue Rosindi and Dalmesia with some people, Zifa ordered. Several sailors jumped into the sea immediately, and even Smoker hurriedly wanted to go down to save people, but was caught by Tina's railing. Tina tugged at Smoker's ear and said loudly, "You don't make trouble, you are also a devil fruit capable person. Tina thinks you are stupid. Smelly woman, let go. Stop making trouble, you will only add to the chaos when you go up." Tina prevents a certain reckless man from going into the sea, and at this time the navy that went into the sea to save people also pulls Rocinante and Dalmesia up. Rosindi got on the boat, but he still hugged Dalmesia tightly, because he knew that Dalmesia was a devil fruit user, and the sea water was deadly, not to mention that Dalmesia was seriously injured, even though it was an animal. Devil fruit users have strong self-healing power, but they are insignificant in front of seawater. The medical soldiers began to check the injuries of the two, but Rosindi signaled, "Show Dalmesia quickly." It is true that Dalmesia's hideous wound looks even more terrifying. Rosindi worriedly watched the unconscious Dalmesia being carried away on a stretcher, and turned to look at his teacher. "Teacher, this is all my fault. If it weren't for this, Dalmesia wouldn't be here." Rosindi didn't wait for Lazifa's scolding and punishment, but just got knocked on the forehead, and Luoxindi looked at his teacher suspiciously. "Rosinindi, how strong you are as a navy. There will inevitably be casualties in naval battles, this is unavoidable. Now you go to make up for your mistakes and catch all the sunk pirates." "Yes." Rosinandi performed a military salute, followed the others to sweep the battlefield, and refused the bath towel given by Tina to keep warm. Nitrosindi came to the medical room to visit Dalmesia, but the nurses around looked serious, and Zifa was sitting beside him with his head bowed. Rosinititon felt bad, his heart sank, and he asked, "Teacher, what happened to Dalmesia?" Zifa did not answer, but another medical soldier replied after looking at Zifa. "Dalmesia's condition has worsened and surgery is required, but our side does not have the equipment and there are not enough people. Dalmesia may not be able to support the nearest naval branch to us." Following the medical soldier's report, Rosindi's heart also changed. At present, Dalmesia has not woken up. This is a very dangerous thing. Rosindi was silent for a while, and asked, "Will Dalmesia be able to recover if he undergoes surgery?" "Theoretically, as long as the operation is successful, the patient's life will be guaranteed." After getting an affirmative answer, Luoxindi calmed down a little and said that he needed to go out quietly. Zifa also understood Luoxindi's feelings very well, and didn't say anything, just watched Luoxindi's departure silently. It is rare for Rosindin to come up with a phone worm. This phone worm was given to Rosindin by Adrian very early on. It was used to contact the nearest Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. Use. Luo Shindi dialed the phone bug, but the phone bug seemed to answer it in a hurry, out of breath. "Excuse me. Which young master is it?" "Sheldon is the president of the Macedonian Kingdom branch of the Xiaxinghai Chamber of Commerce. Please tell me if you need anything." At this time, Sheldon on the other end of the phone was extremely happy. It was a surprise that the president of a relatively remote branch like him could receive a call from the president's son. Every branch president knows that there will be an emergency call bug when they first take office. It is said that it is only the young master of the general meeting. When they receive this call, they must help as soon as possible. Naturally, promotion and salary increase are not a problem. Next, you can still contact the big shots of the phone bug, which had been falling into ashes, suddenly remembered, naturally surprised Sheldon. "I am the second young master of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, Luo Zixity. I need surgical equipment, medical staff, and doctors here. Please send a speedboat to bring people and things over here immediately." Rosindi said in a low voice. "Yes. Okay, I understand, second young master, I will send someone there right away." "Are you injured?" "No, it's my friend. In order to save me, the sooner the better. I will now authorize you to take the position." Rosindi pressed a button on the phone bug, and at the same time on Shelton's side, the shell of the phone bug opened, revealing the pointer inside. "This is my place, you come here immediately." Yes, no problem, second young master. Rosindi then hung up the phone. It depends on the situation at this time, I hope there will be time. On Sheldon's side, Sheldon immediately gathered his staff, prepared the ship, and prepared to sail. The entire Chamber of Commerce became busy, and even alarmed the local country. Sheldon said that he must do everything to satisfy the second young master, and even the chairman of the association must go there in person to show his sincerity. The next day, Rosindi finds Zifa teacher, I contacted someone for help yesterday, and the other party should be able to come in a few days. Well, it's good if you have this kind of heart. In Zifa's opinion, Rosindi was also worried about Dalmesia. Based on his understanding of Rosindi was probably calling him a friend. Of course, a few days later, after the ships of the Star Ocean Chamber of Commerce arrived, Zifa didn't think so. End of this chapter. Chapter 38 Rosindi and Amp, #039, S identity exposed. Chapter 38 Rosindi's identity exposed. The first thing that catches the eye is the huge speedboat of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. When the speedboat approached, the watchman reported that there was a fast-moving object approaching, and even provoked Zifa. After confirming that it belonged to his own Chamber of Commerce, Rosindi quickly stopped Zifa and explained, Teacher, I called those people and brought the equipment and personnel needed for the Dalmesia operation. Although this was different from what he had imagined, Zifa still let the opponent's ship approach. As soon as the boat got close, a fat man jumped up, shot the surroundings directly, and said calmly, Where is the second young master of our family? Obviously this is Sheldon, but it seems that he doesn't take the Navy very seriously. In his opinion, the second young master should only be here temporarily because of his injured friend. For this fat man with an arrogant face and head raised high, Smoker said he wanted to beat him up. That's right, Sheldon's flip operation made everyone on the warship feel baffled. Where did this fat man come from? Rosindi also only told his teacher about this matter, and did not tell anyone else. But it was obvious that Zifa was also confused. After all, Rosindi had never told him about the second young master. But Zifa still stepped forward and introduced. I am the instructor of this warship, Zifa. Are you here to deliver the personnel and equipment needed for the operation? Sheldon was attracted by Zifa, and when he saw the person, his face was a little surprised, and he nodded slightly. General Zifa, I have admired your name for a long time, and I am indeed here to deliver these. Of course, Sheldon knew Zifa's name, and even knew Zifa's appearance. When seeing Zifa, Sheldon's first feeling was to lament the power of the second young master, who was able to stay temporarily on the warship of the former admiral. Live, maybe we still know each other. You don't need to call me a general anymore. I've already retired. You need someone to deliver everything first. Some of us need it urgently. Sheldon nodded, and then someone brought over a bunch of large and small surgical equipment, and several others in white coats followed. Sheldon nodded in satisfaction and then asked, I don't know where my young master is, I want to pay a visit. At this moment, Rosindi, who was standing behind Zifa, was about to speak when he was interrupted by a voice. You didn't even say what your young master's name is, who knows? Merchant, what are you? It was Smoker who was talking. He didn't have a good impression of this fat man. He also recognized the merchant's banner, but the fat man in front of him was really irritating. When he came up, he was virtuous and became obsequious when he saw Teacher Zifa. He, Smoker, hates this kind of people the most. Of course, in Smoker's eyes, all businessmen are like this. Sheldon seemed particularly displeased and annoyed by this statement. He didn't want to argue with a small soldier, but this matter is related to the honor of the Chamber of Commerce. What's more, the second young master is still here, so I have to behave well. Sheldon looked at little Smoker, who was uttering wild words, sneered, and shook the robe he was wearing. In order to meet the second young master, he was naturally dressed in a serious manner. I am the president of the Macedonian Kingdom branch under the Star Sea Chamber of Commerce, Sheldon. And the young master is the second son of the president of the Star Sea Chamber of Commerce that commands all the branches of the Four Seas and the Great Airway. He has the supreme right of succession and a huge fortune. Sheldon became more and more excited as he spoke, and his voice became higher. I, Sheldon, was ordered by the second young master, Mr. Rosindi, to rescue his best friend. In an instant, the entire warship fell into silence. Sheldon smiled proudly, thinking that the group of people were shocked by the background, but he carefully discovered that all the Navy members on the warship were all looking in the same direction. Following their eyes, the eyes of the entire warship were focused on behind Zifa. Even Zifa couldn't help turning his head to look. Sheldon felt strange, stepped forward to check, and found behind Zifa was a young man with blonde hair and wearing a Navy suit. Smoker opened his mouth so wide that the jaws of the entire warship almost touched the ground. How is that possible? Brother Rossi is the second young master of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. Smoker shouted in surprise. At this time, Luo Xindi looked at the crowd, and wanted to find a hole to get in, and blame this Shelton. At this time, Luo Xindi could only pretend to be calm, and took out the pendant she put in her clothes. This is a real blood-red pendant. Sheldon couldn't control his expression. Outsiders didn't know, and he from the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce would not know. At this time, a middle-aged man with dark blue eyes also jumped off the boat, stepped forward to take a look carefully, and then bowed to Ross India. The executive director of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce in the Kingdom of Macedonia, Alexander, has met the second young master, Mr. Luoshi Nandi. With the executive director's confirmation, Sheldon immediately saluted. Sheldon has met the second young master Rosindi. With this salute, it can be said that it was a solid hammer. The Navy that was originally surprised was changed to surprise, and the most popular one was the person who loaned money to Ross Indy. Everyone has different ideas in their minds. There is no way, they know, everyone here knows a little bit. The Shanghai Chamber of Commerce is not an ordinary small chamber of commerce, but a chamber of commerce that spreads all over the world, and can even be said to be the world. And Zifa knows that the Starsea Chamber of Commerce already has the title of King of the Sea in the Dark World, because the Starsea Chamber of Commerce is widely spread. No matter the weather in the New World is different, no matter how dangerous the island is, the Starsea Chamber of Commerce can deliver it. At this moment, Zifa looked at his students full of complexity. Luo Xindi helplessly helped his forehead and shook his hands. Well, your name is Sheldon, right? I will tell my father, and you will be notified of the transfer within a month. Also, your name is Alexander, right, and you are the same. Sheldon's expression immediately became excited, and he began to tell his loyalty and respect for the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, and his respect and awe for the president. On the contrary, Alexander seemed much calmer. In fact, if Dalmesia knew the news, he might lie down on the spot without treatment, because he lent the most money to Ross Indy in the entire Navy. There are still many Marines on the scene who have not reacted, and are still in shock and unable to come out. Tina was shocked. Tina was mad at Rosie. I'll go, Brother Rossi, you are too awesome, you actually have such a powerful father. TSK, Ross Indy, I didn't expect you to be able to hide it so deeply. Yo, Rosie, it's your responsibility to go back and treat the guests. That's right, Ross Indy, you haven't told us all this time. You will be punished with alcohol. Rosindi, don't forget the last time we went there, I paid for it for you. Rosindi, you. Luo Xindi could only respond with a stiff smile to these, thinking, MMP, if I have a dime in my pocket, I will lose. It is a fact that labor and capital have money, and it is also a fact that Lao Tzu has no money now. The most unbearable thing for him now is that this Sheldon is still interacting with the Navy, bragging about how awesome and rich the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce is. Most importantly, Sheldon also signaled to Ross Indy. My lord, you don't need to thank me, this is what I should do. End of this chapter. Chapter 39 Meeting of One Person. Chapter 39 Meeting of the Three. After surgical treatment, Dalmesia woke up successfully. When he learned that Rosindi was the second young master of a certain chamber of commerce, he thought that he had been lying down for too long and had too much earwax, which caused him to mishear. Excited and passed out again, it is said that the last sentence before he fainted, Rosindi, I. Fortunately, Dalmesia's condition has improved and stabilized. It is said that when he woke up for the second time, he was given a sedative, but he still insisted on finding Rosindi to settle the score. Just found Luoxindi. Luoxindi has changed his clothes, because he is now dealing with official business. Luoxindi also reported to Zifa and was approved. Sheldon is to be blamed for all of this, because his big move has sent out the next successor of the Macedonian kingdom, because the Starsea Chamber of Commerce also needs to communicate with the kingdoms, not to mention that the Macedonian kingdom is to win over Luo. Sinandi, the nearly 50-year-old heir to the Kingdom of Macedonia, couldn't help but sigh when he saw the young Rosindi. Thinking about his 70-year-old father, this heir continued to sigh. Rosindi saw Dalmisia approach enthusiastically. Dalmisia, are you awake? I heard them say that you passed out again, but it broke me. How is it? How is your body? Dalmisia, who was still covered in bandages, embraced her hands and said angrily, I'm pretty good, why don't you tell me about yourself? Heir, wait a moment. I saw that Rosinindi had a quick and simple talk with the successor of the Macedonian kingdom. Our side is similar, you just leave the things, and I will mention something to my father. Oh, thank you very much, then I'll go first. The heir, who was in crisis, bowed slightly and retreated. Rosindi also immediately opened the box on the ground, counted the money, and handed it directly to Dalmisia. This is what I owed you before. But the money was rejected by Dalmisia. I never thought of getting it back when I borrowed money from you. If you insist, I won't treat you as a brother. Seeing that Dalmisia was so determined, Rosindi couldn't say anything. Anyway, there were quite a lot of people who wanted to pay back the money, so he had to pay back twice as much. By the way, Rosindi, don't change the subject for me. Is your identity, is it true or not? I don't think you look like you. I don't look like it? Did I say I'm a celestial dragon? Rosindi pretended to be joking, but Dalmisia rushed forward and covered Rosindi's mouth. You really dare to say that you will be over if you are heard by others? Seeing how serious Dalmisia was in a coma, Rosindi didn't bother to say much, and answered the question honestly. Got it, I am indeed the second young master of Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. Are you satisfied? Then why did you still come out? A rich man came to join the navy and was so poor. It shouldn't be because of. Dalmisia guessed that he had already imagined a dispute among wealthy families in his mind. Because the inheritance rights were framed by others, he was forced to go to sea to join the navy in order not to kill his brothers. Needless to say, Dalmisia made up something quite plausible. Don't think about it, I just went on a trip and was brought over by my father's friend in the navy, and I joined the navy by the way. Thinking of this bitter experience, Rosindi said that he no longer wanted to recall it. So that's what you are? Of course, otherwise you think you do surgery, bastard. Dalmisia looked a bit disappointed. Originally, if that was the case, I still wanted to ask my brothers to help you get back everything that belongs to you. Rosindi suddenly looked disgusted. Brother, you have read too many novels. My head. Don't let me look stupid. Ha? You are so stupid. I almost forgot to beat him up. Dalmisia raised his fist as a gesture, but because of the wound involved, he was in pain, so he could only kill Rosindi several times with his eyes. Next, Rosinandi is going to find the creditor. As for the extra money, he will donate it to the navy. Anyway, Teacher Zifa is very happy. On the other side, the Navy headquarters, Crane, Carp, and Warring States are discussing things, and on their table is a reward order, and it is written impressively. Don Quixote Doflamingo. The three of them were silent at the moment, looking at the reward order on the table. Carp was the first to break the silence. That bastard Adrian actually said that the child can't be controlled when he grows up. Warring States also complained. Adri is really too. If I knew I wouldn't agree to him at the beginning, let me keep it in the dark. Because the person on the reward order in front of them is not only the son of their friend, but also a Tianlongren who knows the secret. Adri said before, as long as he can't die, I don't think he will do that over there. Indeed, Adri didn't ask too much. Really? If I had known earlier, the old man would have strangled that little bastard to death. Don't forget, which idiot married each other after drinking. Warring States was powerless to complain. Everyone here has their own justice, so naturally they will not let Doflamingo go, let alone the admiral of the Warring States period, who insists on justice that rules the world. It's just that the current trouble is that the world government also needs to get involved, especially the Tianlong people and the Wulaoxing. And it is necessary for Sengoku to tell Marshal Kong a little. In this regard, the Warring States has been in contact with it, and it is not easy to do, let alone the former Tianlong people. The crane pondered for a while, then said, "Don't make the bounty of the arrest warrant too high, let's have a look over there to see what it means." As for me, I decided to go to Beihai to arrest Doflamingo myself. I really don't know if this good boy sees what expression would I have. Crane, is it necessary? That's right, I ran to Beihai with all my might. Of course, it's not only because of my ability, but also because of the request from the other side. I hope to contain it in the cradle. It's safer to let me go. My devil fruit can guarantee that the child will not die if necessary. Karp of the Warring States period also fell into deep thought. Whether it was because of his status as a friend of Adrian, or the donations made by the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce to the Navy in recent years, they had to be cautious. Adri also has good calculations. A large amount of funds has increased the expenditure of the Navy, relieved the financial pressure in some aspects, and made them less subject to the government. Therefore, Adri's favor must be returned, and the child cannot die. This is also the final bottom line of the three. Now that the crane is about to set off, Warring States is still a little worried. I heard from Beihai that the kid Doflamingo is quite cunning, so be careful. Don't worry, the crane is not weaker than you, a wise general. Karp comforted him, and added, "It seems that the higher authorities intend to make he the chief of staff." In fact, Zhanghua had some ideas in his mind, but he didn't want to use them. Ask for everything. Guichio, end of this chapter. Chapter 40 Going to Alabasta. Chapter 40 Going to Alabasta, Collections. Listening to soothing music, Doflamingo basked in the sun by the window and read a book comfortably. Adri recently said that he would come to find him nearby. He was stationed at the port of a small town recently. Hearing this news, Doflamingo felt nothing. If it weren't for this sister, Adri might not even bother come on, this thing is very serious. Doflamingo looked at the Navy flag in the distance, stood up, and began to gather people to prepare for the evacuation. It seemed that the coordinates given to Adri had to be changed again. I don't know where my silly brother is fooling around. Adri said that he has never seen him during this period of time. On Adrian's side, it seemed much calmer. Robin likes to sleep with his dolls all the time, but I have to say that Robin has a good aesthetic and prefers some animals with personality. Adrian develops freely with the children, as long as they grow up happy. If there is any wish, it is that Robin reads less books, buries himself in books all day long, and stays up late, which makes Diana very worried. Because of this, my young lady's skin will get worse, and her memory will also get worse. After Adri made a little science on the disadvantages of staying up late, Robin also restrained a little, but in this regard, in her opinion, it was all because books were too fascinating. Adri even plans to open a glasses monopoly, so that he can think about it for Robin in the future. Adri and Robin are already on the way to travel on the yacht. Adri once asked Robin if he was bored, but as long as Robin has a book, he is not bored. So this time Adri took Robin to collect some rare and exotic animals. It would be nice to take them home and raise them for a day. Doflamingo raised some flamingos at home before. When Robin seems to be very interested in ordinary small animals, so in order to give Robin a little refreshment. In other respects, Adri also specially opened a zoo on the island, which belongs to Robin only. Compared with books alone, the sea is nothing, because Robin always has books everywhere, and this trip also specially brought a small cabinet of books to relieve boredom. This time Adri intends to go to Alabasta first, take Robin to have fun, and talk to a certain king by the way to talk about business, just considering that in the future, Adri does not intend to let Robin show up, and let everyone around him know stay with Robin. The climate in Alabasta is relatively hot. Considering that Robin is still young, Adri asked Diana to change Robin into local Alabasta clothes, with ice sleeves wrapping his arms and a long skirt. The gorgeous costumes make people mistaken for the local princes and nobles. The people on the ship also went to the countryside to do as the Romans did, and changed into local costumes. Father, your clothes are so handsome. Robin's clothes are cute too. Adri simply picked Robin up and looked at the port that was about to arrive. Adri's clothing is relatively simple but distinctive, giving people a sense of intimacy. After arriving at the destination, Adri took Robin to the branch of the port here, and they were received by Andrew, the executive director of the local Shanghai Chamber of Commerce. Andrew's face looks very simple and honest, with a beard on his face, and his clothes are also very distinctive. He wears a white turban on his head, a dark headband, and a white silk-spun robe. For some reason, he looks very rich charm. In fact, most of the high-level personnel of the Alabasta branch of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce are dressed like this, so people who see this kind of clothing at the port of this place will generally respect it, and it is a symbol of status and wealth. The romance started when Andrew was transferred here. Andrew performed the local etiquette very politely. "My lord, eldest lady, welcome." Adri nodded slightly. "Lead the way." "Yes." On the way, Robin hid behind Adri and whispered, "A father, he looks so kind." Adri looked at Robin in a little surprise and immediately regained his composure. "Really, as long as you think it's good." In fact, Robin's remarks were known by some local forces, and I'm afraid he might not be the first to refuse to accept it. Andrew was able to manage the place so well in this complicated environment, and the means were still very important. When he took office, he single-handedly wiped out a den of bandits aiming at the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, and his iron-blooded methods are well known far and wide. Adrian silently increased Andrew's salary in his heart, and Andrew did a good job of restraining his breath. Andrew led the way to a private restroom of the Shanghai Chamber of Commerce, and respectfully reported the recent income and some major events, and finally added, "Oh, everything is ready, the only thing we need is the east wind. We can develop the inland quickly after the adults have an agreement." It is true that they only obtained the rights and interests of the port. This time they have reached a bottleneck. Some things need Adri to discuss with the King of Alabasta in person, and the interests involved are of great importance. "My lord, I have already prepared people to go with you. I have also prepared caribou ducks and camels. They will be divided into 2 groups. You will go to the capital with the eldest lady and a few personal guards first, and then the camels and other personnel will take you to the capital. If you go to pick up the supplies, you can give the goods to the king as a gift as soon as possible." Adri nodded and agreed, "It's a good idea, then you should take a good look at this port. When the time comes, I will ask someone to notify you. You must hurry up." "Understood, then please go and pick out the caribou duck." Andrew came to a place and brought a few caribou ducks. These caribou ducks all wore hats of different colors, and one of them had a disobedient expression on his face, looking rebellious. Adri looked at this interesting caribou duck, so he decided to choose it. Originally, seeing Adri approaching, the caribou duck wanted to resist, but when Adri just met it, the caribou duck instantly trembling all over, he immediately froze his body, looked at Adri with an expression as if he had seen a ghost, and immediately became docile and obedient, allowing Adri to touch him. "Father, can I pet this one? It looks so cute." Adri turned around and picked Robin up, sat on it, and picked it up wantonly, while Andrew on the side was still introducing. This caribou duck has the strongest temper, but it has neither stamina nor stability, and its speed is also extremely fast. Normally, it would only let me sit on it at most. The adults tamed it as soon as they made a move. It is worthy of being an adult. Adri nodded, and he picked out another caribou duck with a flaming hairstyle. He jumped up, "No." And others also picked out a caribou duck, and Andrew sent a guy to see him off. Derry and others left. Robin was just so depressed, with a blush on his face, and he kept pulling the duck's feathers with his hands. Adri, who is familiar with Robin, knows that Robin is very fond of this caribou duck, and she will look like this for the little animal she likes. Another wave of poison is coming. End of this chapter.